Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest Goalie Crease Net Goalie Hangout. Now, I know that we're going to have some more viewers coming here in the next couple minutes. Looks like I have everything set up. Hopefully, I didn't forget any of my gear. Now, last time's Hangout ended up taking like 3.5 hours, so I don't think we're probably going to go that long today, though I did start earlier just in case we go a little bit longer. So, one other thing to talk about is that my wife is due with her fifth child on Monday. So if I get a call from her, I'm going to have to stop the Hangout for a little while, take that, and see if we are having a kid. So we will see if I end up getting interrupted. So we'll definitely see. Now, I think we're going to have some stragglers coming in here over the course of the next couple minutes. So I think we can probably wait for a little while. And I'm just going to put up a couple Q&A apps for you guys so you guys can ask questions live. And I'll be looking at the YouTube page as well. So hopefully we can go ahead and get started pretty soon. All right, there we go. Looks like our viewers are starting to roll in, so that's pretty awesome. I'm going to see here. Trying to put up a couple apps for you guys so you guys can ask some questions. There's a Q&A app. I don't think we need some of these other apps that are here, but we'll see. Got a screen share app. I don't think I'm going to need any of that stuff. So just for those viewers who are rolling in, just to let you know, my wife is due on Monday, so I may have to go ahead and pause the Hangout for a little while just in case she ends up calling, but that's all right. So this will still be a lot of fun, and hopefully if she does end up calling, I can just stop the Hangout just for a second, take that call, and see if our baby is going to be born pretty soon. So again, we're due on Monday with our fifth child, so probably not a lot of you guys know that, that first of all, I'm old, and second of all, we have quite a few children. This will be number 5 for us, so that's kind of neat. And another question that I often get is, well, how many of them play hockey? And that would be 0. We actually had the oldest one in hockey for a little while. It didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to, but that's all right. But nonetheless, that's okay. I really don't care whether my kids play hockey or if they're goalies or not. I mean, it would be pretty awesome if they were. I think the second one might be once she matures up a little bit. So, all right. So it looks like we have more people starting to roll in. And I'm trying to see here if the Q&A app is working because it's showing me that the feature is disabled. But I'm trying to enable it for you guys. So definitely let me know if you can, if there's any way to send me a message or let me know if that Q&A session is working. So anyway, I think we certainly have enough viewers now that we can go ahead and get started. I think what we should probably do first, probably the thing that most people maybe care about the least, and that's why we'll start off with it, because I think we'll probably end up getting more viewers as we go on, probably the sticks. So as you can see, I have quite a few sticks behind me, and actually there's more on the other side of all that stuff over there. So I segregate all of my gear, of course, according to color. So I have the navy blue and the light blue and white on one side, and all the red stuff here on the other side. So this, of course, is a stick you guys have seen a long time ago, my old Reebok 11K Pros. Which I absolutely love. They're a little bit heavier, but you can still find them around, but it's a really good, sturdy stick. So if you have a chance to pick these up, especially on sale, it's well worth it. But we can go ahead and move on because you're not going to find those in a retail setting that often anymore. Another pretty cool one, now I don't use this one too often anymore, but it is still pretty light, is the Christian stick. And that is an exclusive through Total Hockey, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty good friends with the guys at Total Hockey and Goalie Monkey, funny enough. You know, sometimes I get the opportunity to use this stuff a little bit ahead of the consumer. So that's kind of neat. But I really like this stick too. It's surprisingly light. I actually thought it was going to be maybe a little bit heavier, especially considering it is a Christian, and that's an older brand. So, you know, back in the day when you used to see Christian in stores, they were all pretty heavy and pretty bulky, but, you know, it had really good quality, and they probably weren't going to break that easily. So now this one's a 26-inch, and I can't remember. Yeah, that's the Jonathan Quick curve. I'm not a huge fan of this curve. You guys have seen what my curve looks like regularly. I can kind of show you what this one looks like, maybe a little bit. I kind of off to the side a little bit, but it's a pretty good, you know, mid curve. I'm not a huge fan, first of all, of mid curves, and then this one's a pretty big one. And just to go on a little rant really quick, a lot of people ask me, you know, what curve should I go with, or what curve should I go with to loft the puck? The point of your stick, first of all, is not to loft the puck. It's to stop the puck for those 5-hole goals. So a lot of the goalies who I see who can really loft that puck, they are horrendous when it comes to 5-hole shots. So in my opinion, you should really go with a flatter blade, and then work on your stick handling from there. So that's why you guys often see, when I'm showing you guys my videos, I have a custom curve, and this is my pattern. I'll try to angle so you guys can kind of see. It's really not a lot of curve. It's quite flat. It's a little bit of a heel curve, but it's probably one of the lesser heel curves that you've probably ever seen. So, but what that allows me to do is I can take 5-hole shots all day and nobody's ever going to score. Also, in my opinion, it's much more important for you to be accurate with your shot than to loft it. You know, lofting was pretty cool back in the 80s and the early 90s. You know, if you ever get a chance to watch those vintage videos of, you know, goalies back in the 80s and 90s, and, you know, it's fun to watch. And they're lofting the puck all over the place. But that's not the NHL nowadays. You know, you're an actual third defenseman back there. You should be able to accurately pass that puck. And if that requires a flatter blade that doesn't give you as much loft, then that's what you should do, really. So, yeah, that's just my opinion. So let's keep going. Actually, I'll take that stick back out because this one is my new favorite. So this is the CCM Pro stick. Again, this is my custom pattern, so you're not going to find that in stores. There really isn't anything close to it in stores, unfortunately, because, you know, like I said, a lot of people, they want up the curve. You know, if you try to get a heel curve in the store, that thing is huge, especially if you get like a Kippersoft curve from Warrior. That thing is just massive and horrendous if you're trying to stop anything 5-hole. So, but nonetheless, you know, if that's what you're into, you know, go right ahead. But I think your 5-hole is probably going to suffer. Now, nonetheless, the CCM Pro, I really like this stick. It is a little bit thicker than my old CCMs, and I'll kind of show that here in a second. So I have smallish hands, like you guys have heard me say before, so I really like a thin paddle so I can control it much better. So this is still a thinner paddle, you know, in comparison to a lot of manufacturers, but it is still a little bit thicker than the old CCM 500 that I really liked. Now, at the same time, a lot of people had concerns about the CCM 500 because it was so thin. They thought, you know, maybe it wasn't going to be as durable. In my opinion, it's perfectly durable, and in fact, these are too. And I don't think, let's see, looks like my other one was the one that took a few dings off of it. So I'll kind of show that here. Let's see, took a ding off the shaft right here. And you can see it's just a tiny dent, but it's not really a big deal. There's no issues with the paddle itself. I do tend to take a lot of paddle shots, especially pretty close to my blocker. So, but still, no durability issues whatsoever. Now, one other quick note that I'll point out while we're still on the sticks here is that, and I've talked about this in some of my videos, I've started doing the carry price stuff as far as the shaft length goes. So you can see here, here's normal, and here's the new. And it's probably a good 2.5, 3 inches. I think I have a ruler right here. Yeah. Let's see how far off it is. So I can never remember. So I'm sure you guys remember the old ruler from the 20-minute how to tape your goalie stick video. So it looks like it's about 3.5 to 4 inches that I ended up taking off of that stick. So, but what that allows me to do is it allows me to get a lot more control. One of the things that Carey Price says is that by reducing your stick shaft length, what you're able to do is get more leverage, which is awesome, and I've noticed that too. It is a little bit harder for a goalie like me who wears oversized pads to get over the leg pads in that case, but nonetheless, it still works. Now, at the same time, it also allows you to get pucks that are in your feet. So I'm sure that we all go to the boards, we go to dig that puck out, and it ends up on our feet. And of course, we're wearing 80 pounds of gear or whatever, so we can't find the puck. But once we do, if your stick's too long, now you're trying to figure out how to get your arm up and really get that leverage on the puck. And fortunately, I don't really have to do that anymore because I took off 3.5, 4 inches from my stick. So I'm able to get my stick in there, in my feet, and then do a quick transition and get it out of the zone. So I really like taking off quite a bit. And in fact, just to move on to other sticks, here is a brand new Paso stick. Now, I have not used this stick yet, so I can't really talk about its durability yet, or even its performance really. The reason I haven't used these yet, I'm actually waiting on another pack of these. Originally when I ordered them with the Hashik grip, just to try it, and it ended up coming with a traditional grip, or that's not really a big deal to me. But nonetheless, they're going to send me a new pack, and then I'm going to compare the two, and we'll go from there. So that'll be pretty neat. Now, this is not my normal curve, so this is sort of a, I believe this is kind of a mid-curve. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of each. It'll work out perfectly fine. But one thing that I did was I did reduce the shaft size. That's one of the cool parts about Paso is, so with some manufacturers, you are, you can't order a different shaft size. So it's going to come with a standard size. But this whole stick is pretty custom, with the exception of the pattern in this case, because I didn't want to go ahead and order, 6 or more of these. So I'm really excited to use this stick. This too is a thinner paddle, maybe slightly thicker than the CCM Pro, but it's more on par with maybe like your Sherwoods. Definitely not, hugely thick like a Warrior, which I really can't stand. Warrior makes great sticks. I've used them in the past. You've seen those in my videos. But that paddle is just so thick, it's really difficult for me to get my hand around it. So, but nonetheless, really excited to use those. Now, let me wander on over and show you one more stick that I'm excited to use here. And you guys probably have never seen this kind of a stick before. It's called Infinity Goalie. It is the same guy who... he actually was the distributor for the Tron hockey gear, but you shouldn't confuse the quality of this gear with the Tron goalie gear. So the Tron gear, of course, tends to be your very cheap goalie gear, probably pretty good for street hockey, maybe very low-level ice hockey. I would not wear it in anything where you may be against a pro. But this guy wanted to create Infinity Goalie and, get some goalie sticks out there that are really quality. So now, again, you can see I haven't used these yet. You can kind of see the little fiberglass bar underneath for extra durability and stiffness, which is awesome. This is kind of different. So it's Infinity Goalie, which, of course, they're not really showing you on here. And really, it's a reduced and minimalist design. So if, you like that, all white or minimalist gear, this is definitely for you. At the same time, they offer a lot of different combinations for colors. So they offer some very interesting color schemes. So if you're one of those goalies who you play on a team who has a very weird color scheme and you want to go with something that, is a little bit different, this is probably your manufacturer because they're going to offer those retail, which is pretty cool. This is a standard shaft size. There's really nothing custom on this stick for me. It is a foam core, so that's pretty typical. This too reminds me a lot of the Sherwood 9980, I think it is, but definitely your upper end Sherwood sticks. Now, there's a huge reason for that, and that of course is if you're buying a stick that's made in Canada, it's pretty much made out of one of 2 factories. And that's regardless of your manufacturer. So that's just how the industry is. So really when you're buying your sticks, you're probably buying the same stick or, basically from the same manufacturer from another from another brand. So that's kind of a funny inside thing. There's not a lot of companies out there who are actually making their own sticks. So it's kind of interesting. So interested to try this. The paddle is, I believe, a half an inch or an inch higher than I'm used to. So that'll be kind of interesting to use. I do use a shorter paddle. That way I can get, proper blocker positioning and more control over my stick, especially with that reduced shaft. But nonetheless, it's going to be a lot of fun. So look forward to that in the future. And then, last but not least, my old trusty CCM 500. I still have a couple of these left. I get asked all the time if I have extra sticks. And like in one case, it's like, yeah, I kind of do. But in another case, I really love these sticks, and I really don't want to get rid of them because I love them so much. So the old CCM 500s, a really thin paddle, and that way I can really grip that stick, which is awesome. Get a lot of control with it. It's extremely light. It is very durable. So these sticks, I think I had a 6-pack, and if I remember correctly, maybe one actually broke in a game, and that was it. The rest of them, you get your normal wear down here at the bottom, especially if you're not taping it all the way through like I do now. You're going to get your normal wear, in through this area, so you can see that's kind of chipping off. And let's see, I don't really see any other chips here. You can see it takes a heck of a beating in through the shaft, or in through the paddle. But it's a crazy durable stick. And I think that was a lot of people's concerns with the 500s, was that it's so thin up there, and it looks like there's not a lot of durability or protection up here, but really there is. So you can see I took a shot right here. Very small dent, not a big deal at all. But nonetheless, that's how it goes. So, but I love that stick. Now, just to compare paddle sizes really quick. And I'm going to see here. Maybe I can show you guys. It's going to be a minute difference, but we'll see if it ends up working. Now, one thing you can see already, my CCM sticks and the paddle, they are slightly shorter, as you can see here. Now, I'm going to try to get it equal with the camera so you guys can see a little bit. So you can kind of see that the new CCM Pro stick, which is the one that's on the top, the red and white, it does have a slightly thicker paddle, while the CCM 500 has a slightly thinner paddle. So I prefer, the thinner you go, the better, or the happier I am. But nonetheless, I'd probably say that the 500s are my favorite stick of all time, and the other CCM Pros are probably my my second favorite of all time. I'd probably have to go, if you go with like the thinnest paddle ever, I'd have to think, I think it's the Coho 550, which my parents had made. They used to collect all of my old goalie sticks, and then they took all of those old goalie sticks, they made it into decoration for their bar that's downstairs, so it looks pretty cool. I have some pictures of it. I'll put them up someday so you guys can see them. And in fact, they may even be up on goaliecrease.net. But nonetheless, that paddle is still up there, and that's probably still one of my favorite sticks of all time, just because it is a crazy thin paddle, so that was pretty cool. All right, now, it looks like we have 12 people. I'm going to run and get something really quick I want to tell you guys about, so give me one quick second here. All right, so one other quick thing. I often get stuff from manufacturers, and sometimes they'll give me something to give away to the viewers as well. So one thing I wanted to do with this goalie hangout is I wanted to go ahead and give some stuff away. So interestingly enough, here's this No Bull creatine powder, which is absolutely awesome. And one really cool part about it is, it really, if you put it in sort of warmish water, it disintegrates really well. Now, if you guys have ever worked out before, what creatine does, it allows you to build muscle much easier, and at the same time, it allows your muscles to work more efficiently. So what I like to do really, I'm not trying to bulk up or anything, but I exercise as often as I can. having a big family and whatnot and working. But nonetheless, what I try to do is I try to use it daily. And what that allows me to do is, my muscles work more efficiently, throughout the day, throughout the exercises, the workouts and everything. If I have a big tournament coming up, I may try to bulk up a little bit more creatine, and that way it allows my muscles to work more efficiently. So one thing I will do is, if you are viewing this, go ahead and register on goaliecrease.net and send me a message on the forum, or there's actually a thread on the forum that is about this goalie hangout. So you're more than welcome to put your name in there. And what I'll do is, let's say in a week, so today is Saturday, next Sunday, then what I'll do is I'll close that thread or that contest, and I'll go ahead and throw every name in a hat, and I'll give one away and I'll ship it to you. So I don't care where you're from. You can be from Russia for all I care. I'll still send it to you. I don't care. I can't promise you that it'll make it there, considering it is I probably consider it a food product or something. So I can't guarantee you it'll make it there, but nonetheless, I'll send it to you. So, nonetheless, free stuff. Everyone loves free. Again, go to goaliecrease.net, register. Maybe you're already there. Hopefully you're already there. Find that thread or send me a personal message on there. My screen name on there, of course, is Synesthete. So that's SYNESTHETE. And because no one ever gets that the first time around, I'll spell it again, SYNESTHETE. So if you send me a message on there, put your name in the hat, and I'll pick one out and I'll send it to you. So we'll get that all figured out within a couple weeks or so. So awesome. Now, we need to keep going. Looks like we have quite a few viewers, which is awesome. However, it looks like the Q&A maybe isn't working as I intended it to. So I was going to see here if there's any way to get that working. So give me a second here, and I'm going to see if I can get it to work really quick. So what I'm going to do is kind of fish around on here for a little bit. So sorry if that's annoying. I'm also going to check out the actual live event on YouTube to see if you guys have been putting up any questions. So that's another way to do this, is you do the Goalie Crease Net YouTube channel, and this is on there as a live event. It's definitely not as pretty, but nonetheless it still works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to see if you guys have been commenting on there. I know last time we had comments coming on 2 different areas, which is fine, but is slightly annoying because obviously I'm trying to check 2 different commenting areas, but that's all right. Whatever works for you guys. So let's see here. I'm gonna have to turn this off once I get it here. That way you guys aren't hearing me twice. So, all right. So looks like we have questions through YouTube, which is awesome. So one of them is, I just ordered a Sub-Zero blocker for a good price, but I'm coming from a P4 Pro blocker. Have you used it? So I have used the Sub-Zero blocker. Now my question there is if you got the Sub-Zero 1 or the Sub-Zero 2, which both of them are pretty awesome blockers. So either way, you're going to be very happy with the purchase because they're pretty cool. So now the Sub-Zero 1 versus Sub-Zero 2, I don't remember what actually the real differences are, but I do remember it being one of the thinnest, or not thinnest, but lightest blockers that I've ever used. So, but if you're coming from a P4 blocker, a P4 Pro blocker, which is right in line with the P3 and even the P1, and I never used the P2, but I'm assuming it was probably pretty similar. And also the CCM sets. All the Reebok and the CCM blockers are pretty much the same. There's a few differences here and there in like cuff styles and maybe a few upgrades in materials here and there, but really it's the same basic construction. Now the Brian construction is relatively similar. I think except maybe for the finger protection. I think maybe the finger protection is a little bit different. And their sidewall, in my opinion, tends to be a little weird. But the Sub-Zero one, I think, is perfectly fine. I think it was mostly the genetic one where I felt like the sidewall was a little bit wonky. But nonetheless, it's well balanced. for any Brian's blocker that I've ever used. And I've used the Sub-Zeros, Sub-Zero 2s. I've tried the G2 or the newest ones, the Genetic 2s, and then obviously the Sub-Zero 6.0s that I did a review for Total Hockey or Total Goalie for. So I don't think you'll have any issues there. I think it'll be perfectly fine. So no real comments otherwise. Now, let's see here. I know that we're going to have other comments, and I remember seeing them. Now, where did they go? And we have a couple of comments on the YouTube channel, which I'm trying to find. And I can see that we have quite a few viewers now, which is awesome. However, I do apologize that the Q&A for some reason isn't working. It's telling me that the feature is disabled, and I don't understand why that's disabled. We used it last time, so but nonetheless, it's still working pretty well. So, so if you do have comments, your best bet's probably on the YouTube channel, and then we'll go from there. So it's a little bit annoying, but we'll work it out. So, so I'm going to try to see here if there's another way to do it. All right, looks like there's also a group chat function. So I don't exactly know what your screens look like over there, but hopefully you guys can see that you have a chat function, you have a Q&A function, hopefully, and you can use them. So, but if you can't, again, go on YouTube and tell me if you can't, and I can always try to figure it out. So, all right, so I'm back on the YouTube channel now. Looks like we have a couple other questions for how long we stream. Wonderful question. Last time, I believe that stream went for 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours, something ridiculous. I had no idea at the time that it had actually gone that far. But I don't think we're going to go 3 hours today. We'll probably keep it to like hour and a half, something like that. Of course, right now, let's see, I started this at about 5. We're already at 5:30, and I've only gone through 6. So, and I have 4 sets to go through, a bunch of masks and whatnot, and any questions you guys may have. So, all right. So, and then there was one other question. Let me figure that out real quick. How do you strap your pads, tight or loose? So that's a wonderful question. And so let me go back and we can look at the sets, because typically what I will do is I like it a little bit loose at the top, and then a little more tight through the top of the calf, and then loose at the bottom again. So and then with my toe ties, they tend to be I think it's about, I think it was 3 or 3.5 inches, if I remember correctly. And I can measure them here in a second. But that's because of ankle injuries. So now, nonetheless, let's go through some of the sets. I'll start with the most boring one first. And by boring, I don't mean that it's a bad pad. I just mean it's an older model. So let's see. Let's go with the Cohos first. And let me undo them. Now, you guys have probably been able to tell I really love this Coho set. In fact, when I had an advanced level tournament, what was that? This is September, so it was 2 months ago now. I went back to my Coho set. Now, the team that I was playing for was white and red and black. So, of course, I had to go with a white and red pad. And then the decision was between these and the Bauer NXGs. And we'll get more to the Bauer NXGs, but obviously I chose the Coho pads for several reasons. Now, one of them is they're just broken in, much better. So they are more flexible. It's a single break up here, really nicely flexible. When I first got these pads, I was extremely concerned about the fact that, the top straps here, they're nylon. And in my opinion, when you're looking at nylon straps, I mean, it looks cheap. And it's like, okay, is this really a quality pad then if you're wearing nylon straps? But at the same time, considering it is only this top one, and this is one that I tend to leave very loose, There's really no reason for it to be leather. Now, to get off on another soapbox just really quick, people who think that switching their straps from leather to nylon drive me nuts. They switch them, well, I'm going to save some weight. No, you're not. You have what? Maybe 5 straps, 1, 2, 3, 4 on my pads. Maybe if you're crazy, you'll have 6. If you're Tomas Vokoun, you'll have 20. But even Tomas Vokoun with 20 straps on his pads, and I'm being facetious there, but he had a ton of pads, and he had like 3 or 4 of them just like right here. It was ridiculous. Even if you switch all those to nylon, you're not saving that much weight. And if you think that the difference in weight between leather straps and nylon straps is going to have an effect on your performance, you should probably be, spending your time working out your legs instead of, switching your straps. So that's just a little rant really quick. But again, I was very concerned, coming to these pads, nylon looks cheap, but nonetheless, it's actually worked out really well. Would I want to switch all my pads to this way? I really don't care, to be perfectly honest, especially because these tend to be very loose. Really don't care. But nonetheless, it was a concern of mine at the time. At the same time, it's also not a concern because all right, and it looks like we're back. All right, sorry about that. My internet kind of crapped out on me for a second. Not a big deal. But nonetheless, looks like I lost connection for a couple of minutes. So not a big deal. Just now I have to find the correct window again. Okay, cool. Got it. All right, and it looks like, of course, the Q&A thing still isn't working. But that's okay, because it looks like you guys are making comments on YouTube, which is perfect. So cool. Now, question is, where was I? Now, and also, when did it actually cut out? Because I don't know what you guys actually heard then. But hopefully my internet's up for the rest of the time. So now, just to kind of end that rant that I was on at the time, the knee lock, in my opinion, completely vestigial organ of goaltending. It doesn't need to be there whatsoever anymore. And in fact, when we go through the NXGs, you'll find out that that is the exact reason why I've really stopped wearing those pads, because you can't remove the knee lock. I hate knee locks, and having that really, even if you get the thicker padding that's there, the thinner padding, there's no reason whatsoever for it to be there. And at the same time, there's absolutely no reason for it to be the Sure Grip material or the Nash material. You know, what the Sure Grip and the Nash does is it tries to keep things in place. So that's why when you are using it on your blocker, you're keeping your stick in place. However, your knee rotates, so you don't want it to stay in place. So why on earth would you want Sure Grip or Nash in your knee? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. What I do want, however, is nylon, because nylon is going to allow my knee to do whatever it needs, and it's going to allow the pad to rotate better. So I do think that a lot of the issues that some goalies are having with pad rotation probably have to do with this material that's right here. If it's Nash or Sure Grip, you know, it's trying to grip to your knee or your socks or your knee guards, and it's going to be more difficult for you to rotate that pad. So that's why I take it out. Now, I know one of the recurring questions I get is, how do I take out the knee lock? First of all, very carefully. And second of all, so far, I've only seen that you can do this with Reebok pads. Of course, I didn't really look at the Brian's pads that I was using, because I've used a friend's Brian's pads, and I've used Total Goalie's Brian's pads, and I was not allowed to take out the knee locks of those. So, so I can't really tell you if this is applicable to those brands or Vaughn, something like that. I just don't know. However, on most Reebok brands you can, and Seebach brand, Seebach. Reebok and CCM brands you can, and also these Coho pads. So now, if I can find my seam ripper really quick, okay, here we go. All right, so this is what a seam ripper looks like, or at least a broken seam ripper. That's what it looks like. And usually there's a little ball on the end. In fact, I have another one around here somewhere, but I don't know exactly where it is. But it's around here somewhere. So I use a seam ripper to do this. And then if I can find my X-Acto knife, let me see if I can find that really quick. I knew I was missing something that I was going to want to show everyone. Looks like it's not up there. Usually I'll keep it up there. It could be that my wife stole it. Oh, no, here it is. Sorry, wife. Making accusations. So here's an X-Acto knife. Now, of course, if you're using an X-Acto knife, especially if you're younger, be very careful. X-Acto knives are crazy sharp. But here's what I do. Okay, the first thing I do, I will take the X-Acto knife, and you know, just like anything, there's going to be this little area over here that's going to be thicker. Okay, now you're going to have to use your X-Acto knife to get through it. So basically, what I do is I kind of saw through very gently through the seam, and that'll, you know, get it through that really thick area. Now, then of course I put the cap back on, and of course I'm not really talking about over in this area, but I'm talking about over. Actually, how I do it is I actually start on the inside, so you can kind of see where I've actually cut away. This is existing material. You can see the Sure Grip Nash material right here, and I'm not sure if I can really show you guys in there, because I don't have a good way of showing you guys. I don't have like a good light or anything. Maybe if I use my cell phone light or something. And no, not really. But nonetheless, there's actually a seam that goes down the middle, or it's not really a seam, but it's a thread that goes down the edge here. And I do it on the inside or the outside of that thread, or I guess that, I don't know if that's really considered the inside or the outside, but we'll just say it's on this side of the thread towards the knee lock. So what I do is I get the bottom portion. You can actually see here, or maybe it's a little bit easier to show you up here, the portion that I use for the X-Acto knife. So now hopefully I don't poke a hole in my pads or my hands. But basically what I will do is I'll take it like this and kind of go this way. So I'll go up, and that way I don't go down into the material. So I will kind of saw a little bit up and get it through this section here. And yes, I know there's a term for it, and it's just not coming to my head what that actual section is called. It's not the seam. It's the binding. There we go. So through the binding because it is thicker. Now, the second thing that I do then is I take the seam ripper, which again is this, and usually there's a ball right here, and that protects the under material. So I will take this, and I will go down like this, and it just goes straight through that sure grip material. And it works like a charm all the way through until you get to the other binding, and that's when you're going to use your X-Acto knife again to cut through that binding. So that ends up working out really well. Again, I do the inside first because this is actually the hardest part to do. So if you do this first, then that allows you more flexibility to get to this part. Because at the end of the day, it's this part where you have to be extremely careful around these cords. If you cut these cords, you are in a ball of hurt because you're going to have to get the pads redone by somebody. It's going to be crazy expensive. So again, start on the inside of the pad, get it done, and then you kind of have like this little flap that will come together kind of like a taco, and then you can very carefully do it. So now, obviously, on the outside of the pad with the cords, that's the next most difficult thing. So, of course, I will use the X-Acto knife again to get through the binding. And after that, you can very, very carefully use that seam ripper again to get up to the point where the holes are. And then I kind of go on the inside or the outside edge of these cords, making sure that I'm being extremely careful in not, cutting those cords. So obviously you're going to have a lot of these different holes to get to because you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Depending on what pad you have, you're going to have at least 6 of those little holes to get to, and you're going to have to be extremely careful doing so. So I really wish that I could put together a video of me doing that. In fact, I tried wearing the GoPro on my head and doing it because it is so difficult to see in there and trying to figure all that out. So maybe next time I get another set of pads, particularly ones that are Reebok CCM or all CCM now, we'll see if I can arrange that for you guys. So now, nonetheless, just tell you a couple more things about the co-hose. Obviously you guys have seen the review. I really love the co-hose. I really like these knee rolls, which is kind of interesting because I wasn't sure if I was going to like them at first. And it kind of makes the pad look a little wonky, but nonetheless, they work out extremely well. So they really deaden that rebound, which is awesome. But then the lower portion of the pad is much more reactive. So you tend to get a lot of dropped rebounds, right here, when they hit your pad, they just stop. And then down here in this section, you have more of that bounce out control, which is perfectly fine. It's a little bit different than I was used to in the past because obviously I was using those CCM E-Flex ones that are pretty much wholly soft, and then all those Premier 4s, which and the XLTs that are very reactive. So I've tried all sorts of styles of pads, but nonetheless, I really like the co-hose as being a sort of hybrid between those. Otherwise, I don't really have a lot of comments between them. They slide really well. Probably not as good as the XLTs or even the E-Flex 2s. But nonetheless, when I went into an advanced level tournament, these are the pads I chose. So, and they worked out perfectly fine. Now, granted, I chose them, because of the colors, because, hey, I'm a goalie, and if I don't look good, I don't play good. But nonetheless, it worked out extremely well. So, I'm going to check the comments before moving on to those gloves and blockers. So let me figure out here. Let's see what else we got. All right, I see we have some more comments, which are awesome. All right, let's see. Let me figure out. All right, now that's going to be annoying. I'm going to have to turn the mute on for that. All right, so we already got the Sub-Zero one. Yeah, we got somebody from Goalie Crease Net. That's awesome. How am I liking the CCM Premier chest protector? Oh, we'll definitely get to that one here. You can see it back there, I'm sure. So we'll get back to that in a second. Yes, there are shortcomings that I went through in the review as well. How do you loosen your trapper? Got mine a little while back, and it's still quite stiff, so we can certainly go through that. Awesome. Let's see, what mods do you prefer to your gear? We can go through those. I just went through the leg pads here. I want to remove that knee lock. You should try the Bioreactor 9000. Here's kind of an interesting thing about the Reactor 9000s. They're not selling well. And in fact, I had the opportunity to get brand new Bioreactor 9000 sets. If I remember correctly, for $1,200. So I'm talking brand new pro set Reactor 9000s. $1,200. I still wouldn't do it. They seem like okay pads, but I don't know, just not really my style. The NXGs were good, but they're not selling very well, so that's kind of interesting. But they're flexible, keeps rebounds close, knee rolls, knee lock is nylon. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so we have Brian Elliott here who wears the Reactor 9000s. He seems to like them. I don't know. All right, and then let's see. We also have another viewer who said, I let in 2 goals today coming behind the net and across the slot. Any suggestions for saving it? And absolutely. So, now that I have those questions in mind, let's go ahead and move on to the blocker and the glove. We'll just go through for the sets, and then we can kind of compare afterwards. Maybe if we need to compare the gloves themselves. So I have the Coho glove right here, and this, of course, is your this is a 590 brake, which is my favorite brake in the Reebok and the CCMs. You know, my braking process, I get asked that quite often. Hey, how are you braking in these gloves? Now, what I do is I use the Keeps 33 method, and then I put my own spin on it. So now, if you don't know what the Keeps 33 method is, basically you run it under hot water right here in the palm for about a minute. And I'm talking, as hot as your faucet's going to go. Obviously, you don't, it's not like you're going to want to take, like, I don't know, like a steamer to it or, something crazy hot. Personally, I'm not a fan of putting things in ovens. I think that's a bad idea, other than a pizza, of course. But certainly not my gloves. And skates, those have some gel that's made for it. Some gloves have some gel that's made for another minute. Then, hopefully, if it's not too hot, you're going to stick your hand in, and you're going to make sure that your hand is in appropriately in the way that you want it to be. And then you'll close it. And, of course, I haven't used this glove in a while, so it's a little bit stiff. You're going to close it, wrap it up. You're going to take your hand out, and you're going to keep it in that exact same shape that you want it in. Wrap it in a towel, and then put it, now here's kind of the parts that I do a little bit differently. I go ahead and I put it underneath a couch or a sofa for about 24 hours this way. And then what I will do is I will open it up as far as it'll go. In fact, sometimes I'll just stand on it. So I put it down flat and like that. And then I'll put it underneath the couch or the sofa or whatever it is, whatever heavy object, weights, whatever, for another 12 hours. And then when it comes out, because once you get done with those 24 hours underneath the couch, it's going to come out looking, kind of like that. So it's really not going to be that, much open. Now, at the end of those 12 hours, where your glove has been open like this the entire time, it's going to be really wide open. I also have a friend, he likes to put a wood dowel that would start right here and down here. And that way it kind of makes it more like the Lundqvist, open way that he does it. It can be good and bad. I think it's good because it opens up your glove all the way, but it can be bad because at some point, and I think we've probably all experienced this before, you go to catch a puck and your T somehow becomes inverted. So you go to close your glove and it ends up like this. And there really needs to be a technical term for that. So, hey, as part of this, let's do a contest. What would we call this? I have no idea, but it is highly annoying when that happens. But nonetheless, this is really one of my favorite gloves. Really, it's all in the Reebok style and the CCM style. There's nothing that different about it. So you know, if you definitely want to get a glove on the cheap, and you really like that CCM and Reebok style, you know, think about your Cohos or your reduced price Cohos. So now, same thing with the blockers. You know, crazy light, no issues with it whatsoever. Obviously, the Cohos tend to be more in a traditional style, so we do have the binding instead of the binding list and the blocker. You know, I prefer binding list just because it looks better, but otherwise, I really don't care. You can see vast majority of my shots ended up in the top of the wrist, really, considering where my hand is about right here. Here's the palm. If I go over, palm's right about here, so it's really the top of the hand, and you know, getting pretty close to the wrist. I really don't take that many shots down here. You can see a couple, but there's not a whole lot. And yeah, you know, no complaints about the blocker whatsoever. Now, if we're talking about modifications, you guys know that I also like to often remove this strap right here. And in fact, if I remember correctly, my XLT is over there. I may have removed that strap, but for these, I didn't have to. Now, the Cohos also have more of a closed cuff compared to more of the modern style blocker, which I can show you that here in a second too. And of course, I always remove that little string right there. At least usually I remove that string just to give me a little more flexibility, a little more rotation. Really, that's about it. So great blocker though, very well balanced. So I think let's just keep going with the CCM and the Reebok stuff, and then we'll get to the Bauer NSG, since those obviously are the things that are most different. All right, so let's see. All right. XLTs, definitely heavier than my Cohos for sure, especially picking them up just now. Now, I have not worn these pads in a very long time. In fact, after next week, I'll probably never wear them again. I got a buddy who's getting back into goaltending, and he'll be using these pads. In fact, he used them for a tournament this summer. So unfortunately, he got all of his stuff stolen from his porch, basically. But it all worked out. You know, I could, you know, fortunately I have enough that I could give him a full set, and he could still go up to Toronto and have some fun up there. So, so that's always nice. Now, again, I have not worn these pads in a really long time. So my memory of them can be a little fuzzy, but I certainly remember that they tend to be a pad that is pretty stiff and also very reactive as far as rebounds go. So it is a very hard and very unforgiving. So you can see here, I can barely press my fingers in. In fact, I can't really press my fingers in. It's just kind of going into the leather face, and there's no, you know, foam underneath that is really forgiving or soft underneath. So, so if you really like that that stiffer pad or a very reactive pad, and you like the Reebok and the CCM style, this is probably the way to go. Obviously, CCM is coming out with the CCM Premier pads. I'm sure you guys have all seen what they look like now. They look pretty cool. The design, at least, is a little bit better. And I'm trying to remember here, you know, these are okay. You know, the Reeboks and the CCMs are kind of going more back to the old Coho 560 style, which is fine by me because those were some of my favorite pads of all time. And of course, you guys have seen, you know, with my P4s that I had, you know, pads that really resembled my old Coho 560s. And in fact, as you guys have seen on Goalie Crease Net YouTube channel, you know, I just put up that video, was that a few weeks ago, back when I was like 16, if I remember correctly, and I just had gotten those Coho 560s. I was coming off a horrible experience with a custom pad manufacturer, and I got my, you know, my favorite pad manufacturer, which was Coho at the time, and they were in the same style as my favorite goalie at the time, or my favorite goalies for that matter. Both Patrick Waugh and Patrick Lalime were my favorite goalies at the time, so I got these pads that were, you know, in the same style as Patrick Lalime when he was with Pittsburgh. and I had a mask that was kind of like Patrick Williams, so that was pretty cool too. So I definitely have fond memories of the 560s and of that style and of the design. So yeah, I really like that CCM and Reebok have really gone back to those types of designs because I think they were pretty cool. Now, again, a very stiff style pad, but if you get a chance, especially now, to pick these up, on the cheap, definitely do that because they're still, pro style. They are stiff. They're going to be very reactive. So if that's your style, that's perfect. But they're an absolutely beautiful pad, and I really liked wearing these. Now, you can see here, of course, as usual, took out that knee lock. You can see, I think on the Cohos, no, on the Cohos I didn't, but on my latest CCMs, I actually took this off too. Because I don't strap in my knee guards because I wear socks over them. So I don't need to strap anything in. Obviously, we're not wearing, thigh guards anymore or thigh boards. So really, I'm not really sure why that's there anymore outside of, yeah, they come with with sort of knee protection, that horrible knee protection that it comes with that I would never recommend wearing in my entire life. And I'm sure there's some of you viewers out there who wear the stock Coho or CCM or Brian's or Vaughn knee guards that come with the pads. In my opinion, they are not even remotely enough to actually give you enough protection in the knees. So, but that's just my opinion. But what I did was I ended up, again, using that trusty seam ripper to go ahead and just rip the seam. In fact, well, since I'm about to give these to a buddy, I'm not going to do it on these. But basically what you do is, you just take that sharp end right there, you get underneath the thread, and then you go up, and it will take that seam right out, which is awesome. And then once you take out that leading seam, all you have to do is just pretty much go straight across. Now, obviously, you have to be very careful in through this section because obviously you don't want to cut any cords or you don't want to cut the material that's underneath. But it's extremely easy to just go whoop, and make that noise as you you go across. And I think I did both of them within like 5 or 10 minutes. So it worked out really well. So I also recommend taking that off. There's no reason for that to be there anymore unless you strap in your thigh boards or whatever. I don't even know what you'd be doing with that nowadays. But nonetheless, it's possible. Really, I don't have any other real comments about the Reeboks. They're just great pads. I don't have any complaints about them whatsoever. Obviously, I've been using them for a long time. But again, if you want that really stiff and reactive style pad, probably your XLTs are the way to go. Now, their gloves and their blockers, just like I said before, all in the same basic construction as the rest. And so it's been a very long time since I've put this glove on. You can tell, even with my buddy using it this summer, you can tell that it's pretty stiff. So not too bad. Could be a little more open. But nonetheless, this, of course, is the 590. Now, I'm sure you guys remember from the 590 versus 580 versus the 600 glove breaks. I had gloves and blockers made all in the same style of some of these these models. So that was pretty neat to try those and be able to show you guys exactly what the differences are. But again, this is in the same style, so there's really not that much different. We have the bindingless cuff, which is awesome. This is a one-piece cuff. I prefer one-piece. That's another question I get all the time is, one-piece or two-piece cuff? And it's like, well, first of all, if you play internationally, you don't have much of a choice. Because internationally, for some reason, you have to have a two-piece cuff. But a one-piece versus a two-piece, it really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, your wrist is way back here. And it's inside the cuff right here. And sorry, I'm talking about the cuff right now, but your wrist is way back here. So regardless of what's happening in through here, if this is a one piece or a two piece, it really doesn't matter because it's not going to have any effect on it. So I really don't understand why, really people have a preference of it, I guess. So I just go with the one piece just because, well, I like the way it looks better. So whatever. But again, no complaints about the 590 break. And of course, if you have watched that 590 versus 580 versus 600 break video, Carey Price is using the 600. He's a great stick handler. That one's the one that, in my opinion, is most like a Vaughn, and that's why you see a lot of ex-Vaughn users using the 600 when they switch to Reebok or CCM. And you can stick handle with it fine. You can use fingers up with it. Varlamov uses a 600, which is actually kind of surprising because you see a lot of fingers up position goalies like Rene and Lindback and some others. They tend to use the 590. So that's kind of interesting that he used the 600, but at the same time it works. So, who am I to judge? But the 590 is just extremely good for fingers up because it does have that face that, and I can kind of show you that here, just like I did on the video. If I put the cuff flat like that, you can see that the face is actually looking up a little bit. And so when you go fingers up, it's actually face down towards the puck. And that's the way you want it to be because the shot doesn't come from the player. The shot comes from the stick and from the blade of the stick. So that's why when you're watching those players or when you're watching the play happen and you have a player that's coming in on you, you don't position for the player where his body is. You play your position towards where the puck is. So, you want that open face and you want it face down slightly, especially in a finger position, because that's where the puck is coming from. The puck is coming from the ice and it's coming up. So, those days when you had Felix Potvin, with the glove, we all thought it looked cool back then, in the early and the mid 90s. Felix Potvin's back there in that really reactive style and his gloves like almost backwards. It was completely ridiculous because you can't catch a puck this way. So it's just ridiculous. Same thing with Grant Fuhr, who, first of all, I hate Grant Fuhr, but that's another story. But I was actually just watching some vintage games earlier today, and Grant Fuhr has his glove like this, and it's like he was one of the goalies who was known for a quick glove hand. Well, what the heck is your glove doing like way back and inside your underarm, basically? It should be out and open. So that's really, some differences in goaltending styles nowadays. So that's kind of neat. Now, nonetheless, to get back to the gear, obviously we have the blocker. It's bindingless, so it looks nice. We do have a more open cuff, if you remember with that Coho. If I bring this back up here, you can see the closed cuff of the Coho here and the open cuff of the Reebok. So quite a big difference when you're really looking at it because you have this more closed cuff that can definitely get in your way if you don't have a chest protector with sort of a reduced profile when it comes to the upper arm section. And then you have the Reebok that really will work regardless. But if you like that tighter fit, you may want to go with like a Coho. If you like a more open fit, you may want to go with the Reebok. So. And it looks like I didn't end up cutting that off. If I remember correctly, now that I'm thinking about it, it was the E-Flex 1s that I cut this little strap off for. I didn't want it, so went ahead and cut that off. But otherwise, no major modifications to those. So just making sure everything's good. Perfect. All right, so next, let's get to those E-Flex 2s. I know everyone wants to see those. All right, E-Flex 2 pads. Again, when I was actually picking up the Coho pads are crazy light. I never really noticed how light they were before. And then I picked up the XLTs, and they were kind of heavy. Reebok and CCM pads are not known for being particularly light, especially not compared to, Brian's, who at one time when they came out, they said, we're the lightest pad on the market or whatever that was. And but at some point, really, it doesn't matter as long as you have the leg strength and you're in good positioning, the pad rotates appropriately, and it gives you everything you want. Who really cares about the lightness? And in some ways, and I think I talked about this with the NXGs, that blocker is crazy light. At the same time, even though it's light, it doesn't really feel that solid. So when a puck hits it, it tends to have a lot of variability to it. And the same thing can happen with your leg pads, especially if you have that really thin profile. I can't tell you how many times I saw multiple NHL goalies last year let in 5-hole goals because it would hit on like the inside, like this section right here, and it would bend it back and they would still go in. And so at some point, you know, the thinner profile and being lighter really doesn't help you as a goalie. So now this, again, they don't tend to be the lightest pad on the market, but I would definitely say that they're lighter than the XLTs, definitely lighter than the E-Flex ones, but they're still not the lightest pad on the market, but I really don't care because I think they're pretty much perfect the way they are. Now, of course, the E-Flex 2s, they do have the knee rolls, and that will deaden those rebounds. I'm sure you've seen in my videos, I will take a full-on slapper to the knees, and it will stop in its tracks, which are awesome. And you can see the front of the pad is extremely forgiving. So you can even see here just how much my finger goes in. It goes in, you know, maybe I don't know, a quarter of an inch or ish. I'm horrible at measurements, so I could be totally wrong. But nonetheless, you can definitely see in your video that it goes in quite a bit. And the same thing goes for down here. And this is more along the ice, so I can kind of show you from the lights that there's a lot of forgiveness. There's a lot of soft pads or soft foams in the front of the pad there. It works out really well. Of course, you still have the traditional squared knee roll that, you know, it's a softer knee roll. It's not crazy, you know, crazy stiff, but at the same time, it definitely keeps its figure. That's always a big concern of mine. You know, sometimes with some pads, they tend to be kind of soft, and so the knee rolls get a little wonky. And you can kind of even see like and through here, you know, it's not exactly lined up or something, but it's pretty close. But nonetheless, it works out really well. So, and of course, they also have in the boot section, they've tried to make it much more flexible. But I even talked about this on the video that even though they have done that, that's not really something I'm looking for. So you can see I like a lot of flexibility in the top. So you can see it just goes right down. Didn't even need the other hand. Just goes straight down. However, if I do that to the boot, it goes up a little bit. That's really about all I want because I want it to sit up high on my skates. And of course, I'm wearing oversized pads already, but what that allows me to do is get more rotation through my pads, and at the same time, it allows me to get a little more material in my 5-hole. Because obviously, if I'm going to have that really wide and really low stance that you guys have seen, I'm going to want as much 5-hole protection as possible. So sitting up higher on my skates definitely accomplishes that. So, you know I get asked all the time, hey, you know, what size pad do you wear and how tall are you and what's your ankle and knee? And it's like, well, I'm 5'11" on a good day. I think my ankle and knee, I can't remember even exactly what it is. I can even measure it for you guys really quick. So let's see. Always have one of these on hand if you are getting new pads. Okay, so ankle to knee. I'm going to do floor to knee and ankle to knee. Okay, you ready? All right, floor to knee. The middle of the knee is about, I don't know, 21 and a half, maybe 22 inches. And my ankle to knee, going around, is about 19 inches. So, you know, if I have a 19-inch ankle to knee measurement, and I'm 5'11" on a good day, and I'm wearing pads that are 35 plus 2, you know, it sounds ridiculous, and it probably is ridiculous, especially when you look at it. And no NHLer could have pads that big if they were my size. And then on top of that, I wear them very high on the skate, so I'm getting more material in my 5-hole for more protection. You know, I don't think that's a very good solution for everyone. And I've been using oversized pads for a very long time. So, I mean, even my Coho 560s, they were 35 inches. And at the time, I think I was maybe like 5'8". I remember, you know, when I was 16, we used to lie on my applications to junior tryouts, you know, and we would say, oh yeah, he's you know, 5'10" and 160. But really, I was more like 5'8" or 5'9" and 130. 36 or 38 at the time, crazy skinny. But nonetheless, so, you know, when I'm responding to you guys about, you know, what my ankle and knee is or what size pads I wear or how tall I am, just know that that all has to be taken into context, and that, not everyone can wear a pad that's that big and get used to it. So just be aware of that. Now, so just to get back to the pads a little bit, of course we went through the flexibility, went through the face. That tends to be very deadening for rebounds, which is awesome. And that's another question I often get is, how do I like that? Because obviously, I was coming from much stiffer pads and much more reactive pads. And now, as I'm getting older and I'm kind of slowing down a bit, but my positioning is still really good for the most part, I really like those deadened rebounds because I can just, cover them. And of course, I haven't been the best goalie in the world at covering rebounds or even redirecting them appropriately, which I'm sure drives my teams nuts. But nonetheless, something I continue to work on, and I really like this style of pad. Probably even better than the reactive style, but I can use either one. So just to show you guys really quick, this is what it looks like when you remove that top portion for your thigh boards or for your knee guards. You might even be able to tell. You can still kind of see the line of where the thread went through, but otherwise there's no damage whatsoever. So I just take it out. I think it looks better. Again, I'm not going to get on the soapbox again about the vestigial organ of the knee lock, but nonetheless, I took that out too. One thing you probably see with each of these pads is that the way that I am positioning this elastic band, because I do it the Carey Price way, because obviously I'm taking out this part of the knee lock, which technically you don't have to do. You can leave it there. I don't know how durable that's going to be if you do leave this portion here and you just cut out the actual middle portion of the knee lock. But nonetheless, if you can see here that I'm positioning my elastic band down. So if I even take this off, so that's what it looks like on a Reebok pad. And you can see I actually position it down and towards the top of my calf. So what that allows it to do, obviously, is much more seamlessly go down there. Because obviously, if this is supposed to come across like this, but it's kind of going down, it's going to be much tighter. So I prefer that to be a little bit looser and to act more appropriately. Now, the reason I do it this way, which is also, again, the Carey Price way, is it will drop a little bit down into your 5-hole a little bit better, and you get more coverage in your 5-hole. So that's pretty awesome. It did take a little bit getting used to, and in fact, I think I was responding to a couple comments, a couple of weeks ago from someone who said, "Hey, it's weird and it's kind of loose, and I don't know if I can get used to it. What should I do?" And basically, the answer there is don't get used to it. Because I think the benefits outweigh the issues that that person was having at that moment. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's always, something with each of these new pads that you have to get used to every time. There's something that you may not like at first, but once you get used to it, you're like, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And that's pretty awesome when that happens and you have that epiphany. So now, just to show you how I go ahead and strap these. I put it right about there, so there you can kind of see this has a wraparound calf section. So there's like a little indentation where you can see that little thread. And I always make sure that it covers a little bit of portion of that, both threads. And then this one stays on the outer portion of the calf, and that way I get a lot of wraparound, and it's pretty tight because I like it tight in the lower calf. That way I still remain, I get some control there. So it's really loose up here, kind of tight right here. It gets a little bit looser as far as the strapping goes, but it's actually kind of tight because I use the wraparound calf. And then this is crazy loose. And then the boot strap is also crazy loose. So I can kind of show you here. I always keep these strapped up because obviously if you have 4 sets like I do, and all of them have different strapping, it tends to get kind of annoying. So from the outside, I keep this one at 4, and of course there isn't a knee one, so this is top of the calf or under the knee, if you will. So that's at 4. The top of the calf, then the actual top of the calf, is at 2, and then the next one is at 3, and then I keep this one at 1, and then I can measure this for you right now just so you guys know what my actual measurement is for my toe ties, because I get asked that quite often as well. Now, again, I want to preface this by saying that I've had some ankle injuries, especially from college, where basically I got bowled over a couple times, and it really hurt my ankles. So because they are still hurt, even 10 years later or whatever, I use looser toe ties, and that way it's much easier on my ankles. So measuring from the HD foam that I use, it's about 3 inches toe ties. I think that's probably a little more on the extreme size. I think most people probably use 2, maybe 2.5 inches. But I use 3, so you can kind of see that here. That's quite a bit here. Just as another quick soapbox, I don't understand those people who they don't use toe ties and they don't use bootstraps, and it's like, it's one thing to not use a bootstrap, whatever. Lundqvist kind of isn't using a bootstrap because it goes behind his skate instead, which is actually pretty awesome, because Bauer now made the to the retail version of the reactor skates. Now there's that little strap that's behind there for like the Lundqvist strap, if you want to call it that. So that's kind of cool that you can try that. And you can remove the bootstrap, whatever. But I don't understand those people who cannot use toe ties, or they don't use toe ties and bootstraps. Tends to be a lot of roller goalies. And granted, I played roller and whatever, but still, it's like, come on, you need toe ties. So, all right, let's go through those gloves. All right. Now, I love the CCM gloves, especially because it does have the D3O foam in there. If you remember back from my review of the gloves and from the chest protector and the CCM pants, all of which have D3O foam in it, I love that stuff. Now, I'm not really a big technology guy, so you even see in my reviews, I don't really talk about the technologies that much. I talk more about the performance. How is it performing? How does it feel on the ice? Do I perform well in it? Stuff like that. But I really don't care what the technologies are, as long as they work. And that it tends to be more of a marketing term. And my real life job, of course, is more in marketing. So just this week we were in a meeting about naming something. And who cares what the name is, to be perfectly honest. At the end of the day, it's just, does it work? So when it came out with this D3O foam stuff, it's like, okay, it sounds interesting, but does it work? And the fortunate part is, yes, it does. So this is a pro protection glove. And in fact, I haven't played in this set in over a month, because, well, for one thing, I haven't played since my tournament. That was in July. So that's, a month and a half ago. In between seasons right now still. Still, I can close that glove perfectly. I mean, that is just beautiful. And that's because of that D3O foam. So this is a pro protection glove, but it feels game ready. So that's absolutely awesome. They have the D3O foam right here. I don't know if it's anywhere else in this glove. I just know it's in the palm section, and that way it allows you more protection, and it's still pretty light. And at the same time, obviously you're going to get that really nice break-in feel, which is awesome. I really don't have any other, huge things about the glove. Obviously, it's in the same style as your normal Reebok and your normal CCM. It's kind of funny. I always point out every time that when I first got, I'm trying to think here, the P4s had the quick release strap that was right here. And then and it worked okay. But when I got my eFlex 1s, if I remember correctly, I was really upset that they took away my quick release strap. And then it turns out that really it wasn't tight enough for me, so I just took it out anyway. And then ever since then, I've never used the quick release strap. So, so nonetheless, sometimes what you think you really like in one set, even though it comes over in another model, you end up not really liking it as much. And that's kind of a different thing too. As I get older, I'm wearing my pads a little tighter in the bottom. I want more control. I want more control over my rebounds. I want my glove crazy tight. I used to barely do up any straps in my gloves. I used to use them really loose, and the blocker was really loose. And some of that, too, was probably, back in the day, when I was in juniors, and that was what, like no, how long ago was that? Like 14 years ago now, 14 or 15 years ago now, when I was playing juniors. Back then, like, everyone wore their pads crazy loose and their gloves were crazy loose. And in fact, like, back in juniors, the style at the time was to not even do up, you know, that right there. So you had this big old floppy glove, especially if you had, I'm trying to remember exactly which glove it was. I think it was Brian's. Brian's at the time were crazy popular back then. And if you had a Brian's Air Thief glove, you would just, you know, leave that open. It would be flopping all over the place. But that was like the coolest thing when we were in juniors. But nowadays, you know, everyone wants things a little tighter, a little more control over the rebounds and stuff like that. And it's really all about positioning and not so much about reaction anymore. So that's kind of interesting. But again, there's not a lot of huge changes to the glove. But I did get asked not too long ago, hey, I have a chance to get an eFlex 2 glove or an eFlex 1 glove at a really good price. Which one would you recommend? And it's like, well, in one sense, the eFlex 1, I didn't have any issues with it. I thought it was a perfectly fine glove. It's, you know, the same construction you're used to. It's really light. It's solid. It's a beautiful glove. The eFlex 2, of course, is much more expensive. And, you know, these prices for gear, they're sort of getting out of control, and eventually we're going to get to a point where it's too much. And maybe we're experiencing that right now, considering we're seeing some of these high-profile brands, these high-profile models, you know, they're not selling. And there's a lot of competition out there now, and the prices are just, you know, too much for people. So I think we'll probably end up seeing some of these prices start dropping back down for future sets. At least I hope. Because at some point it's going to get too expensive to play goalie. And if it gets too expensive to play goalie and, you know, we're not going to have the same caliber goalies anymore, then hockey's going to suffer as an industry due to pricing. So, and it already has a horrible reputation for that. So, but nonetheless, I think, you know, hopefully it's going to get better, but I really don't know. Now, I can't remember exactly where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. So this glove tends to be much more expensive than eFlex 1s or even the XLTs. I think it's, if I remember correctly, you know, maybe like $40 or $60 more. I can't remember exactly. And it probably, you know, varies on the manufacturer. But this really does have a demonstrable value in that D3O foam being in the palm, because at the end of the day, it allows you a pro feel, but, you know, still gives you really nice flexibility. So I really like that. Now, where did the blocker go? Here it is. Now, this blocker looks very unused. The reason for that is, and I didn't really publicize this as much, but when I first ordered my set, I had accidentally ordered the threading to be black instead of white to match all the rest of the gear. And you really didn't notice it in the videos because obviously it's not close enough. You might be able to see it in that one video where I was just kind of messing around for basically an hour before a training session. And you might be able to see it there, but that black thread drove me nuts, especially because there's this line that goes across here, which in and of itself kind of drives me nuts. I think they could probably do without that line on the sidewall, even though, yeah, there's some goalies who like to do this section, and they do the outer roll on the pads and whatever. I think it looks kind of weird, but whatever your taste is. But nonetheless, I had them actually remake the entire blocker. Then I went ahead and sold my old blocker to my friend Rick, who's a really nice guy, and he's bought a lot of gear off of me. So that's pretty cool. But I went ahead and had it remade. Basically, it's the exact same blocker I had before, just with white thread. But that's how particular I am, which you guys, again, have seen from that 20-plus minute how to tape your goalie stick video. Now, when it comes to this blocker, there is also some D3 foam in here as well, and I'm trying to remember exactly where it is. I'm trying to remember exactly where that was. If it's in the sidewall or if it's in the front or like right above your hand. It's somewhere in here. But I can't remember exactly where. Or maybe it's in the cuff section. I think maybe it's in the cuff, which kind of, yeah, there we go. I can kind of feel it in there. So, and that's kind of a funny thing. It's like, well, why put D3O foam in the cuff? It really doesn't make a lot of sense because the D3O foam, the reason for that is it's a very light and a very flexible foam, but when it gets impacted by something, it turns rock hard, basically. So, and you guys have probably seen, some YouTube videos out there. There's a lot of different materials out there where it looks like a liquid, but the second you go to like stomp down on it, it actually turns into a solid. So it's kind of interesting. And the D3O foam acts in the same way. So there's really not a whole lot of reason for it to be in the cuff section because obviously you're not going to have a lot of impact in that section. But nonetheless, it's still in there. You can kind of feel it in there. Maybe it would have made more sense maybe on like the face of the pad or something like that, or the face of the blocker, or maybe on this sidewall protection. But really, in my opinion, I think their sidewall protection is perfectly fine anyway. And it's perfectly flush, and I absolutely love that. There's some manufacturers out there where it kind of comes out the side, and it kind of drives me nuts. It looks weird, but that's just personal preference. So I really don't have much to say about this blocker, except for, of course, again, you're seeing the open blocker. And if I compare it to, let me compare that to the XLTs for you guys. All right, so we got the XLT on this side. Got the CCM E-Flex 2s on that side. You see any difference? Not much, if any. You can kind of see if that way, it looks pretty much the same in there too. Go that way, it looks pretty much the same. So really, there's not a lot of difference. In fact, when I'm looking at it right now, and I'm just seeing if I can figure out any difference whatsoever outside of that D3O foam. Maybe the E-Flex 2. This padding right here on the XLT tends to be really thin. And over here, maybe because that D3O foam is a little bit thicker, so that's a little bit of thumb protection underneath. But otherwise, I honestly don't even see any difference. So yeah, it's kind of one of those questions of, hey, if you get a really good deal on some XLT, on an XLT set or a blocker compared to a brand new set, hey, if you're looking to save money, if it's pro quality, just go with the XLTs. And hopefully eventually, you can afford, the E-Flex 2s or the new CCM Premier pads, and they'll work out well for you too. So I'm going to break here for a second and take a quick water break. And I will also check the YouTube page for comments and questions. So let me do that really quick. All right, let them load up here. Looks like I have some that were waiting for review. YouTube likes to tell me that half of them are spam. That's about right. All right, so looks like the one that I thought was spam, which it wasn't. Absolutely hilarious screen name that I will not repeat on this video, but extra points to you. That's absolutely funny. I'm considering switching from Vons to CCM. Is there a huge or noticeable difference, or is it minuscule? It is a huge difference coming from Vaughn to CCM. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. If you just compare the pads side by side, there are definitely construction differences. And in fact, I'm trying to remember exactly which pad that was. Vaughn had come out with a pad at one time that was meant to be a CCM and a Reebok competitor. And it pretty much epically failed. And I'm not sure if they continue making that model. It's kind of like when Reebok and CCM came out with the Larceny set, which was basically meant to compete against the Vaughn guys. Because obviously you had Ryan Miller, who was coming from a Vaughn-style pad, and now he was going to be wearing CCM and Reebok. And so basically what he did was, because he liked his Vaughns, well, I'll just make a Reebok and CCM version of the Vaughns. And of course, those epically failed too. So, and I'm sure there's a few of you out there who really like your Larceny sets. In my opinion, the Larceny set is just I would rather just forget that those ever happened. But nonetheless, they did. And Vaughn had tried the exact same thing with the Reeboks and CCM's competitor for those, and that epically failed. So there are definitely construction differences. And there are even more differences when it comes to the glove. Now, I am not a fan whatsoever of the feel of a Vaughn glove, and it's just personal preference. Vaughns have perfectly good gloves. There's no doubt about it. There's a ton of pros wearing Vaughn gloves. In my opinion, it feels like an oyster. And I know that that seems weird, and maybe until you feel both a Reebok and a CCM and also a Vaughn, you won't understand really what that means. But it tends to be like a very flat part right here where your fingers are, and I just cannot grip in a Vaughn glove, and I don't understand what the appeal of that feel is. I guess maybe if you're used to it, that's the appeal. And I haven't used a Vaughn glove since I was 15 and a half. And I used the old, what was it? T55 or whatever their most popular one back then was. And it was a great glove from what I remember, but nonetheless, I got used to the Reebok and the CCM feel. And I'm a Reebok and a CCM guy, first and foremost when it comes to glove feel. So Brian comes really close to that same feel. And I'm sure there's a couple other manufacturers who have, perfectly fine gloves and whatnot. But I just love the feel of a Reebok and a CCM glove. There is nothing like it. It's just the way I say it is that, Vaughn reminds me of an oyster, and it's kind of flat and difficult for me to maneuver. And a Reebok and a CCM is just warm and comfortable. There's just something about it. And it's all about personal preference. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them, or, with Brian's or Bowers and, the NXG that I have up there. That's kind of like a 590 feel. But nonetheless, that's my opinion. So let's see here. What other questions have you guys been saying? Let's see. On the CCM pads, have you ever tried to remove the boot strap like Carey Price? And let me think here. I have never tried it, though you can. So I'll kind of show that here. Let me bring up the, there we go. So you guys can kind of see. You can definitely remove that, because if I was to undo that and just pull this out, and obviously for mine, it's coming through the face. You can actually get that removed now, which is awesome. I did not know that when I ordered these, that you could get it without, you could get it with just the flat face. But I have not tried to take that out. And also with the NXGs, you could take those out even more easily than this. I haven't tried it myself. I'm not planning on trying it. I don't know why. It's just, I'm used to it, I guess. But I'm not planning on trying it. So, but hey, whatever works for you. So let's see here. We got that one. Let's keep going down. Do I think neck guards are necessary? That is a wonderful question that I think I'll save that one for the masks. How many masks do I have to go through? I have like 5 masks to go through. So I'll save that one for the masks. And you'll, of course, see that now that I'm thinking about it, every single mask that I have has the Lexar or Lexan neck guard. So we'll go through those. Let's see. How do you loosen your trapper? Got mine a little while back and it's still quite stiff. So I already went through that one. Of course, using that Keeps 33 method plus the way that I do it, which is to do it another 12 hours underneath. And of course, if you're still having issues after that, do it again. So and another thing too is, if you have a game in like 2 days, that's really the optimal time to do it. You want to still like slightly damp for your first game, and that way you can really break it in. So you don't want to do your break-in method and then a week later finally play, because that's not going to accomplish anything. But if you start like 2 days before you're going to play, that way you have your 24 hours to do it closed, and then you have 12 hours to do it open. That gives you another 12 hours for it to for some of that water to dissipate, and then it'll be slightly damp for your game, and it'll still be really loose. So so hopefully that works for you. Now, E-Flex 2 blocker. It's also in the Palm 2 for shock dampening when taking a shot with the stick. I do remember reading that. I think I even said that in the review. But I'll be perfectly honest. When I'm looking at the palm of the blocker, I don't see it. So I would expect if there's some D3O foam in there, that would be like a noticeable difference or thickness to it, and you're not going to be able to see it because the light doesn't really see down there very well. But There is no noticeable D3O foam in that. So I don't know what they're talking about unless, I mean, the only thing I can think is, I mean, I really don't know where it would be. There's this Sure Grip Nash material, which is awesome. And in fact, now that you bring that up, this also has the Ultimate Dry material. So it stays dry the entire time. It's absolutely awesome for tournaments. Because obviously, if you're going to be playing like 4 or 5 games, you're going to want something that's, going to dry out really easily. So that's awesome. But I know that they say that it's in the palm, but I can't tell. Maybe it's in there. Maybe it's underneath maybe it's like a really thin layer of D3O foam. I have no idea. But I'm looking on one side, and you see the really comfortable Nash material, and then you look on the outside and you see the Sure Grip material, and then it runs into the Nash. I'm just not seeing it. So I don't know where it is exactly. If it is in there, I would bet that it's slightly thicker right here. So maybe there's like a really, really thin layer of D3O foam in there, and that would make sense. So, but otherwise, I mean, there's no real noticeable difference. So let's see, what else? What other things do we have here? Got it. I can stop off for a quick technical question here. So here's the eye letting 2 goals today coming from behind the net and across the slot. Any suggestion for saving it? So, and this is sort of a noticeable difference between me and probably a lot of NHL goalies. And hey, they're way better than I am. So, so be it. But I'm not a big fan of post loading, or what would otherwise be called the reverse VH. Because especially it works for it kind of works for Jonathan Quick, which is kind of funny because I think earlier in the year last year I remember him getting sniped on like 5 goals when he was post loading, and it looked ridiculous. And it's like, why do you continue doing this when you're letting in goals? And it's leaving holes. There's like a hole like right next to the glove, and there's holes up above your shoulder. So I'm still not convinced that's the way to play that puck or play that play. Now, at the same time, here's kind of the other issue with it. So what you're describing to me is, if let's say we have okay, so here's the net, okay, and here's the boards. So the player's coming out from behind your net, and it's coming out and through the slot. And now if you're post loading, so you're along the post, you don't have any ability whatsoever to slide out into the middle without opening a hole on your short side. And that's kind of my problem with it. What I prefer to do, and maybe it's just because I'm an older style goalie, and I totally understand if this is the wrong way to do it nowadays, so I'm going to qualify that right now. But what I do, I still prefer the traditional VH method, which is, you're going to have your blocker up, you're going to have your leg up and against the post, and you're going to have that glove out in fingers up position. And that's really acting as a deterrent. But at the same time, because that player is coming through the slot and is going to create that play for him and that opportunity, what that allows you to do is you still have a skate that's up along the post so that you can push out and across. Now, remember, you're going to have these active hands. So you have fingers up position. You have an active blocker. You have quite a bit of you're big still. You're not scrunched down. You're not small. You're not overlapping. So in my opinion, it's still the way that I play that play, which would be the VH, and that still allows you the mobility of, you're up against that post, and now you're going to use your foot to, go way over, and you're going to be in really good position. Whereas, if your, leg is flat there, basically you can kind of go across a little bit, but God forbid he goes all the way across. Now you have a completely open net. So it's something that I probably need to work on a whole lot more, like, the NHL goalies do. But, when Jonathan Quick was getting sniped for like 5 of those goals earlier in the season, and then I'm trying to remember who else it was. I think it may have been Ben Bishop, who also got sniped a couple times doing that. I'm just not convinced that's the right thing to do on that play. And I don't know who made that up. And I remember Carey Price got sniped a couple times doing it that way too. So I don't know whose wonderful idea that was. I can see some benefits to it, but still, I think the VH is the way to go, at least for me. But again, I don't exactly have a lot of time to practice these things either. So maybe if I did, maybe I'd find some other benefit to it. All right, so we've already gone through the Coho 589s. We've already gone through the XLTs, and we've gone through the eFlex 2s now. So let's finish up with the NXGs, and then we'll get to the other CCM gear that I know you guys are really looking forward to seeing. So here are the Bauer NXGs. Now, I really like these pads, and I've always said that if I had to switch away from Reebok or CCM, I'd probably look at Bauer first. Now, this pad, of course, is much more similar to the Premier, the Reebok Premiers, and probably also those CCM Premiers now, though I haven't gotten my hands on a pair of those yet, so I really don't know. But this is a very stiff pad, and it is extremely reactive to rebounds. So my friend Rick, who I mentioned earlier, he actually wore these in a drop-in game not too long ago, and he was even surprised like how far rebounds go off of these pads. And you guys have probably seen that in a lot of my videos. So again, there is pretty much no give whatsoever in these pads. If there is any soft foam, it's extremely thin, but otherwise it is just crazy stiff. And the same thing goes for this. Now, they say this is regular flex, and if this is regular flex, I don't want to know what, high flex is, or what low flex is, because I really have to work to get these pads to flex a lot. And, you remember back with those, the CCM Flex 2s, pretty much they go right down with one hand. If I try to do it with one hand, that's pretty hard. So this is an extremely stiff pad. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. It's just much different than what I'm used to. So, so whatever works. One thing I do really like about these pads too is they have adjustable strapping inherently. Now I ended up going ahead and cutting these off because I thought they were ugly. But these you can actually hide up here, so I actually kept these on. So those are kind of neat. And then you of course have the knee lock. Now, this is what really drives me nuts about these pads, the reason why I don't wear them anymore. I'm sure this is fine for the vast majority of goalies, so whatever. But here again, here we have this vestigial knee lock, okay? And their knee lock is integrated into the back of their pad. So it's not like Reebok or CCM where I can actually remove the knee lock and just let it be nylon on nylon. And granted, this is nylon too, but there's still, there's a good ½ inch or even more of padding here. And all that ends up doing, we don't go down flat on our pads anymore. There is no reason whatsoever for this padding here. And there's also no reason that it needs to be soft, because there's no reason we're going down on it anymore. So it's not like, it's in a practice or whatever, and eventually our knees, get torn up. That doesn't happen anymore. So really this should be removable. And it drives me nuts that it isn't. Again, fine for the vast majority of goalies, still drives me nuts. Now, I could remove this outer portion if I wanted to, but at this point I really didn't care. But one thing I did really like actually is that they allowed this to be soft. So there's a large face right here for the landing gear, and then this portion right here is really soft, so that if you are a goalie who's training quite often, or you have a lot of practices, this is the portion that you're going down on. So this makes sense to be soft. This does not make sense to be soft, but whatever. I think that's more out of tradition. Now, again, I use the carry price strapping for these, or at least often I do. I kind of tried it both ways. It kind of works both ways, but you get better rotation when you do it the carry price way. And then you do have a wraparound pad, but it's not as wraparound as like the CCM or the tight fit for the Reeboks and the CCM pads. So it kind of reminds me of sort of like the old Coho, like 580 or 590 fit, where it does end up wrapping around because your leg ends up going, in that section. It's pretty well closed, but it's not actually like anatomically, fitted around like the CCMs and the Reeboks are. So it's a little bit of a different feel, but I'm sure, a lot of the goalies who use Bauer pads, they probably like it that way. So that's fine. Another cool part about these is all of these straps are really removable. So you can kind of see here, you can actually remove each of these pads or each of these straps. So that's really nice. And in fact, you can do the same thing up here. So originally it came with another strap up here at the top, and I went ahead and removed that as well. And the other cool part that I've always talked about with these pads, you can remove the entire boot strap crazy easily. So all you have to do is there's a little screw right here. You unscrew it and kind of see. There we go. Get the light on it. You can remove that screw right there, and that'll take out that portion. And then this portion just comes right out. It's in like a little sleeve. You can take out that entire boot strap. So that ends up working out really well. Now, as far as sliding goes, they slide perfectly well. I would say that they probably don't slide as well as my my eFlex 2s or my XLTs. I remember the first time I'd gotten on the ice with the XLT, it was a fresh sheet of that sheet of ice, and you know, you just kind of do that one little, you know, push off, and I swear I must have, you know, gone on for like, I mean, easily like 10 or 12 feet. It was ridiculous, the ability to slide on those XLTs. The eFlex 2s are pretty similar, so they slide very well. And then these, I would probably say these are like the third best sliding pads. Now, if you want that in comparison to the other pads that you've seen me wear, like the 6.0s, the Bryant Sub-Zero 6.0s, you didn't see me wearing the Genetic 2s, and you didn't see me wearing the Sub-Zero 2s. But those slide okay. But I didn't feel like they slid as well as like the eFlex 2s or the XLTs. I'd probably say that the XLTs probably slide the best out of any pad that I've ever worn. But that's probably also because they tend to be extremely stiff in the inner portion, which, you know, kind of comes close to the Total One NXGs here. You know, it's much stiffer, though this section right here, which is sort of like the inside of the gusset, that does tend to be much softer. In fact, when I did that, you can kind of see it stays there. So it's kind of weird that this side right here tends to be very stiff and very reactive, and then this is a little more, you know, maybe there's some foam in there that kind of makes you dig into the ice a little bit. So if you want a pad that is just, you know, slipping all over the place and you can slide really well, you know, this is perfectly fine. But if you want something that's like really sliding well, you're probably going to want to look at the Premier series for Reeboks or CCMs. All right. All right, glove and blocker for the NXGs. All right, so when we're talking about really not being the same as Reebok and CCM, like, you know, because I've used Reebok and CCM for a really long time, obviously, but I always get questions about other gear. And I haven't used Fawn a lot, so it's hard for me to talk about that, even though I kind of talked about it, you know, in the last, you know, 20 or so minutes. But when it comes to gear that I've used, really the Bauer gear is probably the furthest away from the CCM and the Reebok feel that I've used. So here's the glove, all right? NXG glove. It is the most similar thing that they have compared to the to a 590, which is weird, really, because you can kind of see it in the face. If I put that straight, you can see that the face of the glove, just like the 590, faces upwards. So that's really good for fingers up, because, you know, just like before, if your finger's up, what that allows you to do is it shows down towards the puck. So no problems with that. However, the angle is definitely different. And I'm trying to remember exactly what the angle of this glove is. I can't remember, and it doesn't tell me. But really, it's not even close to the 60-degree break of the 590. So I'm not really sure why in some descriptions I've seen that, you know, they say it's the closest to the 590. It kind of has that same feel, but really it's not all the way there. And you can kind of see that in the puck marks. So let's see if I can kind of compare that. Here's the 590 and the CCM. A lot of the puck marks tend to be in the webbing, which is awesome, or in the pocket. And then you can also see in the palm here, especially in here in the palm. I tend to take quite a few in there. Now compare that to the Bauer glove. Where's most of the puck marks? You see a lot up here, and you see a whole lot here. So isn't that kind of weird? So you can tell that there really is a huge difference in these angles and the breaks. So, and again, I can't remember exactly what the angle of this one is. But again, I think this is really more of a preference thing. So, you know, if you really like the feel of a Reebok, you're just going to continue with the Reebok and the CCMs. If you like the feel of a Bauer, this is probably what you go to. And at the same time, if you're a Reebok or a CCM goalie and you're going to move to Bauer, you're probably going to want the NXG set just because that one is most similar. I really don't think that those reactors, especially the Reactor 9000s, are even remotely similar to a CCM or a Reebok pad. But again, they've had some difficulty selling those. And at the same time, I do have some friends who have used the Reactor glove sets. And to be honest, they told me that they were some of the worst gloves that they have ever tried. So when I even had the opportunity to get a full Reactor set for $1,200, it's like really not even interested, because I know that if I don't like it, the resale value of those are going to maybe be like $700 if I'm lucky, and I don't want to try something out for $500. So now, one of the coolest things about the NXG gloves and Bauer gloves in general is that they tend to have an extremely wide face. So just like you see on Lundqvist, look at that. I mean, that is a huge face to that glove. So, and especially, with this glove too, you didn't need a lot of break-in. So it actually came broken in. And but here's kind of the funny part. If I go to close it, it doesn't really close that well until I close it myself, and I kind of curl over the T. And now you can see it's closed pretty well. But when you first do it out of the box, it's a little wonky. So, but the break-in method, exact same break-in method as before. No issues with that. The only thing I'll say about really it's the whole NXG set in general is that the gloves tend to not feel as solid as the Reebok and CCMs. I've never had a stinger in this glove or in that blocker, but they just don't seem to have the same solidness to them, if that makes sense. So there's a certain level of confidence that you get from a Reebok or a CCM glove set, because you just feel like when that puck hits it, you're protected and it's going to stay there, and it doesn't make your hands waver or anything. But in these, you kind of feel like, okay, it kind of feels like a senior set, but it's still just as protective as a pro set. And it does tend to be lighter, so I will say that. So, and it could be that lightness that is doing it. So if you really like a light glove set that's protective, this may be the one for you. But in my opinion, it just didn't feel as solid for some reason. And again, that just come down to the weight. So now, blocker. Now again, and of course, somehow I got stuff on the blocker. I don't even know where that came from. Some sort of a liquid. But all right, so the blocker. Again, you can kind of see that this has sort of like a sure grip material, but it's not really sure grip. It's actually Nash. And there's just some designs in the Nash that allow you to get a much better grip on the stick. But again, extremely light blocker. Probably the lightest blocker I've seen so far. I would say maybe the one that would rival that is the Brian series. I think it was the Sub-Zero 2s that are crazy light too, and I really like those. But this one is extremely light. Now, but at the same time, just like I said before, even though it's light, it kind of feels wonky. So you can kind of see there's a lot of flexibility here, and when that puck hits it, and again, you can see, where they've been hitting up here. I think on the Reebok and CCM, they were maybe a little bit higher generally. But you can see quite a few here, and in fact, you can see I kind of struggle a little bit with the way that this blocker moves. It just when it hits it, it doesn't feel as solid. So in fact, if I keep my hand straight, I can actually move the blocker over back and forth quite a bit, even though my hand is staying in the exact same position. So let me try that with the Reebok. I've actually never tried that before. Let me see what happens. Here's the XLT. All right, so hand in the same position, maybe a little bit. but certainly not as much. So it's just a tighter feel when it comes to the Reeboks and the CCMs, and a little bit to the Bryans. And this one has a much more loose feel. I think a large part of that is due to this very open cuff. I mean, this is a crazy open cuff right here. So, but again, very protective, and it's still, really light and allows enough air to get in there. So, your hand's not getting too hot. But nonetheless, it just doesn't feel as solid. At the same time, never had any protective issues whatsoever. You can tell I really struggled with blocker positioning with this blocker and just the way that it does move. And I took a lot of pucks off that sidewall, but absolutely none of them actually ended up hurting me. You can see quite a few right here too. And you can in fact see one more puck mark right there. One more quick thing I want to bring up about the glove really quick. Probably the thing that drives me nuts the most about the Bauer NXG glove is the back of the glove itself. Could you get an uglier back of the glove? I mean, this part right here just drives me nuts. And I know I said it in the review too, but this is a red and a white glove. So to see this black foam and this black mesh that's back here just drives me completely nuts. And it's like, I wish they would have just put some sort of material, even if it was like like a thin thing of nylon, just anything. Just put it in there, and that way it just looks better. So in my opinion, I think they probably could have done the back of that better. Another thing too is I understand why it's this way, because it's supposed to open up and give you much more flexibility, especially for fingers up. So really this should be really good. More often than not, just this got hung up on my chest protector. So, and I think it's crazy ugly. So, when you're looking at it, it's kind of like Transformer glove or something. I don't really know what's going on back here, but it's crazy ugly in my opinion. But I think they could, kind of, and again, this is a preference thing. I'm used to prim and proper, back of the glove, and it looks really nice, and there's nothing to really catch on me. But at the same time, this probably isn't as flexible as the Bauer one. So there's give and take. There's pros and cons. There's preferences. I know it goes both ways, but I wish there was maybe a little more middle ground. But unfortunately, there's not for those. Okay, so quick water break here. Let's do some more questions, and then we'll get to the good stuff, the chest protectors and the pants I know you guys are looking forward to. I haven't changed skates in a number of years, so I'll go through the skates a little bit, but there's not really a whole lot to talk about because that's an older model. I think those are 6000s. And then I have 5 masks to go through and take some more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So I think are we already 2 hours into this thing? I didn't even notice that. It's pretty cool. I see that we still have quite a few viewers, which is awesome. And hopefully you guys stick around. Looks like you guys are sticking around so far, which is awesome. These things always go way longer than I expect them to. Like the first ones, I thought it was maybe going to go for like an hour or so. And then turns out that went for like 3.5 hours, if I remember correctly. So either 2.5 or 3.5. So looks like we're going to be on the same track this time. All right, so already did it. Already did that question. All right, so we are still going to do the CCM Premier chest protector and what shortcomings it has. Is this still live? Yes, it is. If you're having an issue, let me know though. And let's see here. Do you think neck guards are necessary? We'll do that. There we go. Yeah, Angelo, good job. Yep, the Vaughn Vision and Ventus line. That's what Vaughn created to be that one that was comparable to CCM and Reebok, and outside of a couple of goalies here and there, it really wasn't used, and it really wasn't picked up that well by the retail market. So let's see here. Already did that one. Already did a lot of those. What accessories do you use to stick your GoPro behind the net? We can certainly do that. In fact, let's do that one right now. So, because that one's really easy. And I see, oh yeah, the Epic line of Vaughn. I remember that. That was kind of like that was really like directly the same thing as when Reebok and CCM tried to do the Larceny line, and then Vaughn came out with the Epic, and like both of those just like epically failed, which is kind of funny. So whatever works. All right, so let's see here. All right, so to get it behind the glass. So First of all, it's not actually behind the glass. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people mistake when it comes to my goalie cam videos. Now, one thing is that there is a YouTube video that I did put up, and it's on the Goalie CreaseNet YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. And what that does is, in that video, I go through all the different methods that I use to do my goalie videos. I probably need to do another in-net cam because I haven't done that one in a really long time. It may have even been like over a year now since I've done that view, and that's mostly because the rinks that I've played at most recently don't have a padded bar, that padded middle bar, and you need that bar to be padded in order to do an in-cam net. That's the best way to do it, and that way if the puck does hit your camera, that it won't shatter the casing. So that's a little caveat about that. Mass cam, I know that I've done that one in the past year, but it's not that often, and that one's okay. But your question is about behind the net. So first of all, it's behind the net, but it is not behind the glass. So I use this, which is, now granted, this is the one of the original GoPros. This is the Hero #1, the Hero HD. I'm still like, what is that? Probably, I don't know, 5 years behind the times as far as GoPro models come out. But there's actually a reason for that. So just to go on that really quick, the original GoPros were much better than a lot of the later ones with focusing on both near and far shots. So that's why in my shots, you can use, that really good HD, and you can see relatively well the play incoming, and you can see what's happening. You can see the puck, even at the other end of the rink, you can see what's happening with the puck. Whereas some of the later ones that had also some heat issues and some battery issues, that's the reason I went ahead and stuck with this one. Along those same lines, another reason why I stuck with this, you can't be changing batteries in the middle of the game, and you can't be changing cards in the middle of the game. So that's one reason I really haven't wanted to upgrade to the newer GoPros. Yeah, I could shoot in 4K, and that would be awesome for you guys, but I don't think anyone will probably end up watching it in 4K, so who really cares? It would just look kind of cool. I mean, I'd watch it. I'd watch my videos, and I'm probably half the views of all of my videos. But the battery life at 4K recording too is just horrendous. So I cannot take time out of the middle of the game to redo a battery or put in a new card or anything like that. That's just not worth it. So, and I already have enough problem trying to take down, this thing in the middle of the game and put it up and take it down, put it up again. And people have to wait for me while I'm doing that. So that'd be, crazy annoying. So that's the reason I stick with the original model. So, but when it comes to doing it behind the net, this is what I do. So, and I'm going to make that flat. And now you can see what the angle is. So you can see it's looking down. And what you want that to do is actually look at you and the net. So if you put this up and you notice that it's facing above you, or it's facing like middle ice, you know that that's way too much, and you're not going to catch any of the net. You also know that if it's facing directly at the net, and like down like that, as opposed to up like this facing you, you're going to catch way too much of the net, and it's going to cut off the top of your head for your entire video. And I've actually had that happen too, and that's a video you've never seen because it just looked horrendous. And I even caught some cool saves on that one too, so that was heartbreaking. And that's the way it always works. It's like when you make the greatest saves, that's when the camera's down at the other end, or you ran out of battery, or you ran out of room, or you forgot to charge it. I've done that before. Or even I've even forgotten to put the card in it afterwards because I left it in my computer on accident. So that was heartbreaking as well. So anyway, back to this. So what you're going to want to do is you want to angle it down so that it looks directly at you primarily, and also the net. So you're going to want to make sure that it gets both of those. This can be a little more difficult at some rinks. I've noticed that some rinks have boards that are way closer to the net than others. So it tends to work better for behind the net cams if you're at a rink that, there's a lot of room behind the net. And that way it doesn't have to be angled, down or up, too far, but it'll just be angled right at you. And also, the further out you are, the easier it is to get you in the shot. So it just makes more sense. And in that case, you know, if you do know that you're going to a rink that has the boards that are really close to the net, at that point, it's probably better off not even to use this angle and just go with a mask cam or a net cam, as long as that that net has a padded middle bar. So now, again, getting back to your question yet again, after you make sure that you have the correct angle on there, basically all you have to do, and this is a newer setup, and actually I have another one. I might be able to use that as a giveaway too, but maybe that'll be like the next one's giveaway. I have an extra bar. What you end up doing is you put it against the glass, and then you press right here, and it ends up, I'm trying to remember here if it goes up or down. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it goes to. But press and yeah, press and go down. So you make sure that that actually is up, and here, that way you guys can see. I can see that the light wasn't really giving you guys a good angle. So you end up pressing that button, and then you take your other finger and you end up going down, and now it's locked into place. So now, the other question too is, you know, how far up am I positioning these things? And basically what I do is I reach up as far as I can on the glass, still making sure that that angle, the angle of the lens, is looking at me and the net. But you pretty much reach as far up as you can go. And then that's how far up you put it. So I've had it hit, you know, several times. I've never had the GoPro actually broken. I've had the casing broken once, and I've had a vented helmet strap cut in half basically one time, or snapped in half from a puck hitting the casing. And I've had the arm, the actual arm of this thing broken once from a puck hitting it. Actually, now that I think of it, I think this is the original casing, so I don't think I've even had a casing broken. It's just been the arm and the vented helmet strap, like one or two of those. So vented helmet straps are like 15 bucks, and these arms are like 30, if I remember correctly. The casing tends to be kind of expensive, and the GoPro, of course, you know, that's, you know, $200 to $400. So I would much rather the casings and the arms and, you know, the apparatus is broken as opposed to the GoPros. So it's worked out really well. Okay, so I know you guys are crazy excited to get to the chest protector. Let me check one more time on if we have any other questions really quick. Let me figure out here. Got to minimize a window in order to get to it, since the Q&A function is not working for me here. All right, so let me take one more quick look before we get. We'll do even the chest protector first, because I know you all are excited about that. CCM Premiere, also my pass. So, all right, got it, did it. Very good. Looks like no more other questions for the moment, which is awesome. All right, so, all right, let's get on to that chest protector. All right, and I'll stand up for this one so you guys can actually see it. All right, so here's the CCM Premier Pro Chest Protector. I mean, look at this thing. This thing just looks badass, doesn't it? Just screams badass. So I saw Carey Price wearing it after his game. Looks beautiful. I really didn't have any huge issues with this, with the exception of the way that these shoulders end up positioned. So, and there's a little bit of variability there. So I kind of want to go through that as well. Now, this does have D3O foam right here in the middle, so that's really cool. Usually I take this heart guard out, but for this one, I didn't take it out. I didn't really think it was that necessary. And there's a lot of flexibility in through the chest portion and the belly portion, which is good for me because I'm going to need that in order to fit them inside my pants, because I do tuck them in. And as far as that goes, there's this little loop right here that actually loops into the pants, and that's absolutely awesome. So that ends up working out really well, and then you don't even need you don't need suspenders, and you don't need to even tie them down in the front. There is a loop. I'll show you that here in a second. There's still a loop right here, a belly loop. You want to tie that into your pants, but really that's unnecessary. as long as you you use this right here, which goes inside your pants, and it just clips on, or it clips around, and then clips back to your pants. So it's kind of like this. If it's kind of like that, and then you just tighten it up, and it stays in your pants the entire time. So that's awesome. Now, here's the drawbacks. Since you specifically wanted those as well, is that you can see here that shoulder portion is crazy stiff. Now, granted, I'm sure over time, if I keep working on this, it'll become less stiff. But because it does stick straight out, now if that shot's coming in, it can just hit you straight on the side of right here. So I've actually had that happen before, and it did not feel good at all. And I think I even put that on the YouTube channel, and I definitely put that in the review as well. That I definitely wish there was more protection, maybe a second cup up there at the top of the shoulder. But otherwise, I don't have any complaints about this chest protector. I really like the advancement that they made, which is that they use Velcro on here now, as opposed to the the traditional straps that the elastic bands that really, the elastic in them, they end up getting kind of gross, and they break, and then they never stay in the little. I'm trying to remember even what you would call it, but basically it just won't stay tight. And the Velcro stays tight, and then you still have that really hard elbow cup, which is awesome. And you also have a thicker protection up here in the forearm, because obviously if you're going to be a fingers up goalie, kind of like me, then you're going to want that extra protection up there. There's also, I'm wondering if there's D3O foam in this, because it feels like there is. I don't know that there actually is, but it kind of feels like there is. But there's actually a surprising amount of flexibility when it comes to the arms. I can show you that here. So I'm barely using any effort, and those arms are going down really well. Now, when it all comes to the adjustability of chest protectors, one of the more annoying parts of chest protectors when you get a new one is basically you're just trying to get it to feel like your old one. And it could literally take you an hour to actually get all of it just right. But because all of this is Velcro, it ends up going much better. So you can see back here, and actually I'm not sure if you will be able to see that. I'm trying to get, yeah, there we go. So this is actually a Velcro loop. So it's just looped around. It's not actually tied in anymore. So before there'd be, some skate lace or some lace in there that would actually tie it in, and you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually move these mid-game, within a matter of seconds. Same thing with the back. This is all Velcro now. In fact, this is Velcro, so this adjusts the wing. And then this is also Velcro, and this adjusts the chest height. And the same is for both sides, of course. And now you can adjust those mid-game as well. So this is definitely a chest protector where you can take it out on the ice for a training session or a drop-in, and you can mess with the chest protector in between sessions, and it works out really well. So I really like that about this chest protector. There is a lot of potential in this chest protector. If it wasn't for this shoulder cap, maybe not be more flexible or more attuned to the way that our anatomy works, I'd probably rate it maybe the highest chest protector that I have. Now, here's the other chest protector that I use quite often, and I still absolutely love it. This is the chest protector that I used in that advanced level tournament. I would put this chest protector up against any Vaughn or any Brian any day. There's no doubt about it. So this is the Paso Pro chest protector. It has the Pro package. So the heart guard right here is extremely soft, so it deadens those rebounds. You can see it's more in the Vaughn style, so it has more of that contoured shoulder floater, which really in the past I kind of like the more Reebok and the CCM feel, where it's kind of sharper and it looks more intimidating, and this really doesn't. But it actually forms much better to the way your anatomy works. And so when you're making a chest save, it makes sense for that shoulder floater to go in like that, because now your arm comes in like this. So it needs that extra space right here in order to make that save and control that rebound. So it just makes sense. Now, going back to that, the CCM Premier Pro, this right here, you can see there's actually two basically kind of shoulder pads. So there's a shoulder cap up here, and there's a secondary pad underneath, and then there's actually another pad underneath that has extra protection on the side. I'm not sure exactly which portions of this are the Pro protection part, but nonetheless, I absolutely recommend the Pro package, which is also this little pad right here. Absolutely beautiful. And of course, I always call this the side boob protector. Very important for me, especially. I don't like to get hit on the side of my chest. It does not feel very good at all. But that offers a ton of protection. And then, of course, we have the arms, extremely wide, extremely flexible. I mean, this is definitely the most flexible arm out of the box that I've ever had. I'd still say, you know, I often get the question, what is your favorite chest protector that you have? It's still the Pass Up. And again, I would definitely put this up against any Vaughn. It is in the same style as most Vaughns. It looks a lot like a Vaughn. It feels a lot like a Vaughn. I've even used a Vaughn chest protector in the past. So, you know, if you're looking for a chest protector that's similar to a Vaughn, you know, I'd definitely say that this is probably one you want to look into. So, I absolutely love this chest protector. All right, let's go through skates really quick. Now, this is one of the more boring things because, as you can see here, this is the Bauer Reactor 6000 skate. This is a few years old, at least. They've had several versions since then. I think this is the 6000. I can't remember. This is 6000 or 9000. Can't remember. But nonetheless, I wanted a skate that was much more traditional as far as its feel goes and its fit. But at the same time, I wanted the advantage of the modern cowling. So I had tried the Bauer Pros. I had tried, trying to think here, what were the other ones I tried? I tried the Pros and the ones that had come just before that, but I can't remember exactly what they were called. Way too much going on in my life at any given time. But when I switched these reactors, it was like a match made in heaven. So I do wish that, like a Reebok skate, it has these little locks that are there, and I can't remember exactly what they term as, some marketing term, but basically it locks it into place so you can actually tighten them independently. So you can tighten this, you know, tight or loose, and you can tighten this tight or loose, and it doesn't have to be the exact same, because obviously with a more traditional boot, you know, you can't really tighten it independently. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I absolutely love these skates, and I would love to try the newest ones. So hopefully I get the opportunity, and that'll be a lot of fun. So, but if you do have a chance to check out, you know, Bauer skates, this cowling is absolutely beautiful, especially this little section right here. And you know, the issues of yesteryear where that would break down pretty easily, those are well over. So this is an extremely durable skate. I've used those for a number of years. You can tell that there's not a lot of gear that I keep around that often. You know, I use it, I get something new, use it, get something new, use it. The skates have probably stayed with me the longest. So, and I think that's very telling of how good those skates are. So if you have a chance to check out the Reactor model skates, definitely do that. I never got along with the Pros. They gave me a horrible lace bite, but that's just my preference. So whatever works for you, but in my opinion, you know, Bauer's right up there with the skates. All right, pants. I know you guys are excited about the pants as well. All right. Now, hopefully all of you have already seen the review for these pants. These are the CCM Premier Pro pants, and they are huge. If you like a form-fitting pant, this is not for you. If you like a pant that is not bulky, this pant is not for you. If you like a pant that is very light, this pant is not for you. However, if you like a pant that is very protective, that is very bulky, that gives you the size that you want to be a goalie, this is definitely the pant for you. And also, if you're wearing the CCM Premier Pro chest protector, this is probably also the pant for you, because if for no other reason, you have these those little straps I was talking about earlier that integrate extremely well with the chest protector. So again, this is an extremely bulky pant, but again, when you're looking at the differences between goalies in modern day and you know, a long time ago, it's kind of funny because 20 years ago, gloves were bigger, pad width was bigger, their length was much smaller, of course, but the width was bigger. And chest protectors, you know, if you were Gar Snow, it was much bigger. But a lot of them are probably around the same-ish size. The biggest difference between goalies back then and nowadays is in the pant, which is kind of funny because they're regulating a lot of other things. And outside of, you know, the way that the thigh conforms to the leg, they really don't regulate the pants that much. So they probably need to do some more regulation in the pants if they really want to reduce the size of goalies. And now these are XLs, and I got them larger than I usually do because I wanted that extra bulk. And there is also some D3O foam in this. So there's D3O foam in this section right here. One of the things I didn't like about my old Reebok 20K pants is that sometimes this section would lift up and it would go underneath and it would hurt in the upper thigh. That doesn't happen anymore because now there's an elastic band right here. It's a much tighter fit, and there's the D3O foam in here that just gives it a little more bulk and goes down and conforms really nicely to the way that we move. You know, the kinesiological function of this is much more appropriate. So, so that works out really well. I absolutely love these pants. It does take some getting used to if you're moving from a smaller pant or just really any pant in general, because they are very different than my 20Ks as well. But if you want a pant that is pro style and pro protection and is still a retail model, this is definitely the one for you. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's go through the masks. I got a lot of them. And I have to remember who all painted all these things too, okay? So this is a wall. I always forget this part. I even did a review on this and I still always forget it. This is a wall mask. I can't remember if it's the W8 or the W6. I think it's the W8 if I remember correctly, because I really wanted a W10 because that's their big pro model. And their W8 is kind of like, it's supposedly also a pro model, but it's still not the W10, which is the one I want to try. So we'll see if I get the opportunity to try the W10 in the future. But this is a wall mask, and it is the exact same mold as the Fusion 9961. Now, no comment on whether it's made by the same people, but nonetheless, it is the exact same model, or the same mold. Now, the reason I knew it was the same mold is because this back plate, if you look at these two holes, I remember very distinctly reviewing the Fusion 9961 and the fact that these were actually asymmetrical. And then when I saw these, it was asymmetrical in the exact same way. So that's how I knew that this was the exact same mold. They've actually fixed this, supposedly, in later iterations of this model. But nonetheless, that it is the exact same mold as the Fusion. So if you like the Fusion mask, this is probably a good mask for you. And of course, the Fusion mask is based off of the Bauer 961, the 960 mask. So, you know, it's not a far departure. Now, the wall mask itself, it is a little heavier and sturdier. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. I think it gives you more confidence when you have a more slightly heavier mask. It ends up working out well. Now, I love the paint job of this mask. And this was painted by River Rat Airbrushing. And he is out of somewhere in Iowa. And he is just the nicest guy ever. He's kind of newer to the industry. But he is absolutely awesome. He's done some absolutely beautiful masks. I think at the time, this is probably one of the best masks that he had done. And in fact, since then, I think probably 2 or 3 masks that I've seen him do are even better than this one. So he's getting better, and it's pretty awesome. So it's awesome to see the development of new talent. Now, you can see this is zombie themed. So I play a video game along with some other goalies. That's called DayZ. So if you do play the DayZ mod of Arma 2, let me know, and we can certainly play together on the internet sometime. But this is a zombie-themed mask, so you can see, you know, some blood, some big zombie face right here, zombies going across, you know, and a nature theme. Got the brick wall down there with aims, and you know, pretty much the same thing over here. We have a nature scene behind with some zombies coming at you, and another really cool zombie face on the side. So I'd say my favorite part about this mask is the detail in the zombies. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you guys exactly. Yeah, you guys can kind of see how much detail is in there. There's actually a surprising amount of detail in the zombies. And not just the zombie face that's right there. That's pretty cool, and you can see some stuff dripping down from them. Some really good textures. Great textures in the blood that definitely looks like actual blood splatter. And then just the really cool detail in those zombies is pretty awesome. It was exactly what I was going for. I would say if there is anywhere where maybe a little improvement would be made, if I could talk correctly, would be, you know, just bringing some more textures into this area. You can see a little bit of texture here and there, but sort of, you know, just tighten it up a little bit. But I think this is absolutely awesome. Now, I know that one of the questions before was, well, I always recommend neck protection. I don't really wear neck protection as far as the guards go. You know, in addition to the one that's integrated in your chest protector, mostly because from a heat issue, it's just too hot for me to do. So, and I also don't like things around my neck, so I can't stand like really nice shirts or anything like that because it just drives me nuts that it's, you know, like choking me. Like Mitch Hedberg said, like somebody really weak trying to choke you from behind. So I'm not a huge fan of that. But nonetheless, I always put on the Lexan throat guards. Now this one is the Bauer, and if I remember correctly, it's the N18. I think there's also an N17. I can't remember exactly which one it is. Every time I find these, I buy them up, so I have like 4 extras. And they're on every single one of my masks in the exact same style because I think this one looks better. I know there's one that's like it's sort of flatter and less texture to it. There's less you know, lines to it. I think it's horribly ugly, but that's just me. Actually, it was kind of funny. One time I was at Total Hockey. I'm standing in the goalie section, waiting for my skates to get done, and there's a goalie dad and his goalie son who's standing there, and they were looking at some, you know, substandard neck guard thing, and then you have the really nice Bauer N18s, and they were trying to figure out which one. I said, well, you know, if it makes any difference, this is the one that I put on all of my masks. I have, you know, 5 or 6 masks at home. This is the one I wear on all of them. And then they promptly chose the opposite one. So I don't know what that says about me, but it was kind of a funny story when that happened. So, but nonetheless, absolutely beautiful mask. Really well made too. So Wall's done really nice with this mask. I still want to try that W10 though. So we'll see. Now, when people ask me what is the best mask I have ever had painted, that would be this one right here. And unfortunately, it was on a retail Bauer 961. Now, granted, I have worn the Bauer 961 mask since I was like 16, I think. When I went to juniors, I think I was wearing the 961, maybe 17. So I've worn this mask or this style mask for a really long time. But I ended up getting an even better mask back there, and I wanted that one to get painted, but it just didn't work out. The timing didn't work out. But nonetheless, this is easily the most beautiful paint job I've ever had. This is painted by Franny Drummond of Paint Zoo. He does like Steve Mason's mask and a couple other NHLers and certainly a whole bunch of other pros. Extremely nice guy, does absolutely beautiful work. So you can see here that it is definitely pro quality. You have the 40 down here. You have really nice textures, even in the background. And you can kind of see it. This is a Tornado logo because one of the teams that I'll end up playing on eventually in some year will be called the Tornado. And you can see this really nice navy and really bright blue. You can probably not see it that well. but there's actually small textures. Let me see if I can put it close enough to the camera. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see. It looks like you probably won't, but there's actually some little textures within this, the top of the mask that's sort of like little dots, but they're so fine that you can barely see them. But it's just that extra attention to detail where you can really tell, you know, the pros from the guys who are, you know, beginning. Now, within the tornado figure here, you can actually see the arch. So if I'm going to kind of outline it for you guys. The arch actually starts down here and goes up, and you can see the clouds here. But here's the arch going up, and then it comes back down. Same thing on the other side, where you can see some clouds over here, but here's the arch coming up and then going down. So St. Louis tornado, that's the whole reason for that. But it's just absolutely beautiful, and that was all hand-painted, hand airbrushed. Franny Drum is just absolutely pure professional. So that was absolutely awesome. Now, of course, this is the Bauer 961 mask, which is still one of my favorite masks of all time. Just the fit of it is beautiful, extremely well protective. It's available at a retail model, so it's easy availability. It does tend to be expensive. You know, for even used, you're looking at $400 to $600. For new, you're looking at you know, $800 to $1,000. For a pro model, you're probably looking at $1,200, something like that. So, but it's well worth the money. One other quick thing. Now, when I originally got this painted, there was a Star Trek mask. And so one thing I do on all, or at least most of my masks, is that I input, you know, this chin sling as opposed to a chin cup. I'm not a big fan of chin cups. And in fact, if you're like a teenager, if you have the ability, I know that some leagues restrict them, but if you have the ability to get a chin sling instead of a chin cup, this will actually help with your acne, because when I was a teenager, I tended to have a lot of acne where my chin cup was, just because, you know, it gets grody, gross, and you don't wash it as often as you should. But it's very easy to take these chin slings out and wash them, so it's much easier. This one is a custom-made Star Trek one, because of course I'm a huge Trekkie, as I'm sure you guys have seen in my past videos, where I wear Star Trek shirts often. You can see the Star Trek logo in here. That was actually made by Doug Wager, who is, or Wager, I can't remember how you say it. I think it's Wager, actually. He's a mask painter, does beautiful work. I've had, I think, 3 masks done by him so far. And in fact, one of them is up there. I'll show you that in a second. But Doug is a crazy nice guy. And these chin slings are actually really inexpensive. So I always order them by like 2 or 3s at a time. And so you just get with him. He also goes by Weaselhead, if that helps you. That helps out a ton. So I absolutely love it. All right. 3 more masks. All right, so here's the Doug Wager painted mask. And this one, of course, at the time I was playing on a team called Ghetto Sauce, but I didn't want you know, a mask that was just, you know, like weirdly like barbecue sauce or sponsored by the company who sponsored the team. So I wanted something that I could still use for any team when I wore my red or white pads. And so that's why you see this. So, you know, just like, I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. Ron Tugnut had this style of a mask when he was with Edmonton. Several goalies have used it in Edmonton. I think one has even used it in like New York, the Islanders. But it tends to be one of those classic style, you know, painted masks. And I think Doug absolutely did an awesome job. One thing that you see here, and it's kind of a little bit difficult to see, but there's a lot of 3D texture that Doug brought to it. You know, it would have been very easy for Doug just to, you know, put some splotches on here and hey, there you go. But he actually made them 3D, and it absolutely looks awesome. So he did a beautiful job on this mask. Doug also tends to be very inexpensive, but does beautiful work. So if you're one of those goalies who you want a really nicely painted mask but you don't have a ton of money, give Doug a call, and and see if see what the price will be. It never hurts. So otherwise, looks absolutely beautiful. There, of course, is the custom chin sling in here. That's another one. And, of course, you can see he also custom did this one. So there's a little splotch in there. Doug always puts those nice finishes on there, which is awesome. Doug also does these straps, and I can't remember exactly what he called them now. I don't know why I can't remember what they're called now, but he also custom makes these straps. So what it does is it allows you to open up the back there, and that way you can paint up the back. Of course, on this one I didn't do that, but for the vast majority of my other masks, that's open for painting. Now, and of course, this is a retail 961 again, so yet another 961. And not last but not least, but last in the Bauer category, another 961. Now, this one is a Pro Mold 961. This is the one that I should have gotten painted by Franny, but I'll have it painted someday, and it'll be beautiful. This is a Bobrovsky Pro Mold, and I've used it a few times, and it is just absolutely beautiful. You can definitely tell a difference between this mask and your retail model, even if for no other reason than this is a Pro backplate, and so it's shorter. It definitely feels much different on your head with this Pro backplate. But there's some differences in the lines and the shape of the mask. Before you get a Pro Mold mask, do your research, please, because fortunately, while I was doing my research for this, I found that Sergei Bobrovsky has like I guess a smallish type head or a regular head, so this mask ends up fitting me really well. But if you want to go with like the Henrik Lundqvist model, he has a huge head apparently, and so that one tends to be much bigger. You can also get like long chin models, which I think are horrendously ugly, but hey, whatever suits you. And then there's also like the bubble chin. There's a lot of bubble chin models going out there. I don't think they're Bauer. I think those the older ones are Bauer. The newer ones maybe just come straight from Jerry. But I'm not a big fan of the bubble chin style either. But nonetheless, they're definitely out there, and there's a lot of different options if you look for them. Of course, you're going to have to pay for it, and a Pro Mold like this will go anywhere between $1,000 to $1,200, and that's retail and unpainted. So it's definitely an investment, but one that's well worth it, and that looks absolutely beautiful. And last but not least, in the mask category, we have the Pro Mask XDK. This is one that you don't see me wear too often because I often let friends borrow it when they need a mask to wear, because this is a mask that is very easy to change for your preferences, especially because of the air bladder that is inside. If you can kind of see, the air bladder system a little bit in there. But the air bladder allows you to blow it up and get a personalized fit. So it's kind of gross that other people are probably putting their mouths on the little tube, but nonetheless, it works out. It's also what I consider my show mask. So if I go to a show or a session for gear or training, anything like that, I'll put this mask on the table, and it looks absolutely beautiful. So, but nonetheless, it is a pro style mask. Several pros are wearing these. It's a Pro Mask XDK, so it's their top model, and this is painted in-house by them. So I kind of wanted something that was more, like I talked about earlier, Patrick Luleem. I love the themes of his old masks, so I wanted something that was a little scary, sort of like an Abominable Snowman sort of thing, but still kept within that Patrick Luleem theme. So you can see a really cool Goalie Crease logo right there, and then you got the Abominable Snowman or whatever this creature is, reaching through the ice and getting it. So you also see the Patrick Luleem style top there. On Patrick Luleem's, it was like a penguin poking through, but now we have these mean eyes up there, sort of similar to Pekka Rinne too, but a little bit different. And the same thing on that side, and then we of course have the 40 down here at the bottom, and Ames down there, or back there in the back plate. So I absolutely love this mask too. I don't wear it too often since I am used to the Bauer 961 models and the fits of those. and because you can't really put a chin sling in this portion, but it still works out really well. So I'm trying to think here. I think I'll go through the knee protection really quick, since I get some questions about those pretty often too. And then maybe I'll go through the bag really quick because I get questions about the bag somewhat often. And then we'll go from there. And I'll check for any more questions. So let's see. All right. Let's step over all this gear now. All right, so there's two main types of knee protection that I use now. I do also have that the Paso Pro knee protection, which is a softer style pad. It works perfectly well. I just prefer a hard cup on the outside, so I'll just show you those today. So here's the original Swiss Protex. These are the $900 knee guards that were going around for a long time. These are the ones the pros use. So it has a hard carbon and Kevlar front, and then it's on a Reebok base. And then there's also some, some extra padding and stuff like that they put in. I was wondering if these were made for Carey Price for several reasons, but I'm not sure if they were or not. Now, one thing you'll see is that there's a pad removed back here, and this is kind of the downfall of this version. Here you can see, oh, that pad's out of there too. So the pads fall out easily, and I kept having to glue them back in. And then you glue them again, they fall out, a few more games. So I'm not sure what the pros are doing to keep those things in, or if they're just really gluing them every single game, basically. But it's highly annoying. So that's why when I heard that Goalie Monkey and Coho were coming out with their version, I was crazy excited. Now, they did the same thing. They, they go ahead and glue that in, but it works out beautifully. And this is after, let's see, I got these in December of last year, I think. So we're coming up on a year, and it still hasn't fallen out. Now, this does not have Kevlar in this front plate. I think this is all carbon or plastic. I'm not sure if there is any carbon or whether that's just design. It might even just be plastic. But nonetheless, I've had lots of pucks hit off the fronts of these. No issues whatsoever. And it's also on a Reebok style base that works out really well, that I absolutely love. And this is plastic as well. I think that is carbon, if I remember correctly. And this part down here is plastic with a carbon design on it, just to match. This is directly comparable to those. Of course, this is not a $900 version. This is your $150 version of the $900. But very few people can afford a $900 knee guard. Completely understandable. And most of you guys out there don't need a $900 knee guard. I probably don't need a $900 knee guard, but of course I'll wear it since I have it. But the Cohos work perfectly well. And the only issues I've had with the Cohos, and you can kind of see this here, is that this strap is pretty much about done. So I have very large calves, as you guys have. I think someone even commented on my how to break in goalie equipment video that I have huge calves, and that's true. And that's like the only part of my body that's like pure muscle. So I just tend to have bigger legs from working them out for years and whatnot, and from being a goalie for a really long time. So, but because of that, it puts a lot of strain on straps, and these are integrated, so you don't take them off and put them back on. That's what you're doing with these Velcro ones. So this strap is almost done, unfortunately. And if I look at the other side is still, well, yeah, it's starting to rip a little bit. So I would expect that these will eventually rip entirely, and I'll probably have to send them to a cobbler or a shoe repairman and get them, put back on and sewn appropriately. So, because I can't do that fancy of work. But otherwise, absolutely beautiful knee guards. Definitely top of the line. When anyone asks me what kind of knee guards that they should be wearing, those are the ones I tell them. Unfortunately, there are very few knee guards out there for kids, and that really stinks. I think Paso might be able to make some that are a softer style. So I know I've put some people in touch with Paso about making some for smaller kids, but I think maybe even they didn't want to make them kid size, at least not too often. But if you are a kid or you have, smaller legs and you don't want a huge bulky knee guard, you may, call Paso and see if that's something that, they might put together for you, or, if they'll make a different size for you. All right. I think last thing that we'll go through before I go through any more questions will be, let's go through the bag really quick. And I'm going to get the chair out of the way a little bit. All right, I get a ton of questions about this bag. I'm going to set it on the chair a little bit. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but I've had this bag for about 3 years now, I think, and it's the Sumo Goalie bag. And with the exception of that, so you can see there's like a little bit of a hole where the zipper comes through, which actually happened like in the first few weeks of this getting this bag. But I think really it was because it maybe wasn't made like 100% awesome. Just they missed that. But outside of that, I've had zero issues whatsoever with this bag. So, and I know that, a lot of kids and whatever, you probably don't want to have a wheel bag, and you probably feel somewhat stupid for having an upright bag. But a bag like this has really saved my back. I have tons of back issues, and so this bag has definitely saved me a ton of time. So, I can keep all of my extra stuff over here. I have scissors that at least one player, if not two, needs every single game. I can keep tape over here. I can keep a puck over there. I got a game puck there from winning MVP for a game. Got some extra skate lace in there. Got some suspenders down here, an extra pair of suspenders. I'll usually put my water bottle in here. Up here, you, of course, put your mask, skate, glove, blocker. Everything else will fit down there, and then I just have to carry my pads separately. So it ends up working out really well. And then one thing I like to do, too, you probably can't tell over there, but there's some hole. Oh, yeah, you can tell. There's holes in the back. So you can kind of see I'm putting my hands over them. But you can actually keep your gear right here in the bag. What I'll do is I'll actually open up the front, and then I can put my my fan or a dehumidifier right in front of it, and it'll just dry out all of my gear for me. So, but I don't even have to take any of the stuff out of my bag. So it works out really well. All right. Okay. So I think that's pretty much all the gear I have outside of like 20K pants. I don't think anyone really cares about the Reebok 20K pants anymore. I also have a P1 chest protector with some original P1 arms. I don't really think anyone cares about that. I mean, it's all stuff that I'm not really using it anymore. So what I'll do is I'll check the YouTube channel for comments really quick. We'll go through those, and then we'll wrap it up. Looks like it interesting and useful. So, all right, cool. So let's see here. All right, take a quick look. We've already done all of those. We've done all of those. Can you recommend anyone who can paint a goal mask? Yes, a ton. So I've had masks painted by Franny Drummond from Paint Zoo. I've had Sun God Graphics. Let's see, who else have I had? I've had Headstrong. I've had the River Rat airbrushing. I know I'm missing somebody, and I can't remember who it is. I'm going to feel really bad for it later for not mentioning him. But I've had, and then of course Doug Wager. I've had tons of masks painted by lots of different painters. For the vast majority of the time, they've been really good, and they're able to take my concepts and put it into something that's absolutely beautiful. So it's probably easier to not mention like one painter more than another. I mean, I already said that, Freddie Drummond's mask is probably the best one I've ever had painted. Headstrong would probably come in second. But there are a lot of up-and-coming mask painters out there who do absolutely beautiful work. And as long as you can find the right painter for the right price, you really can't go wrong, as long as all the reviews out there look good. And so always check out reviews online. And then the other thing too is check out their past work. What kind of style do they do? Are they putting in the textures that really pull in the entire mask and stuff like that? And if you can find some reviews on Goalie Crease Net, then that always goes a long ways too. So hopefully that ends up helping you out some way. Where do I find a good mask cage? That is a wonderful question. And you probably couldn't tell, but some of my cages are bent. It's kind of hard to find cages nowadays. They tend to come in kind of quickly and then go out the door really quickly. So your best bet really is to call up a retailer like Goalie Monkey or Total Goalie or other retailers and ask them when their shipments come in, or maybe they can even order you one and ship it directly to you. So that's really your best bet, because it can depend highly on the manufacturer. So hopefully that works. All right. All right, for someone that may not have the Rocket Sport Wash to clean their gear, did you have any method for cleaning your gear prior to buying that? Wonderful question. The answer to that is no. I did not have any way of cleaning my gear, and in fact, the only time I use Rocket Sport Wash is when I buy used gear, which isn't that often really. But when I do buy used gear, I basically put it in Rocket Sport Wash and water, and I'll stick it in the bathtub. I don't really use the front loader anymore because my wife got really angry at me because the Rocket Sport Wash apparently has these little beads in it, and then they were coming out in her clothes for like 2 weeks. So so I had to stop doing that. I got to keep the wife happy. So so I just use the bathtub now and do it that way. But so that's what I do when I use used gear. Now, I'm sure you could probably use like some sort of other soap or stuff, but you just have to be really careful with that because you don't want anything that's going to break down any of the foams or the materials. But and I know some people would probably be really weary about putting stuff in a bathtub, really. To be honest, it's not that big of a deal. And when it comes down to it, here's the way that I always keep my gear clean, is I dry it out. That's the biggest thing you can do to keep your gear from smelling or from being too gross or nasty or anything, is just dry it out after every single time you play. Get yourself a pro goalie locker like I have up there. That wasn't that expensive, or you can make one yourself, or you can certainly get those big plastic things at your local, Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever you have wherever you are. Those things are relatively inexpensive. So if you just get a small one, put all your gear on it, and then stick a fan in front of it, and you can see my fan over there in the corner. I just put that right on it, and within, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, everything is dry, and it's beautiful. And you don't get that nasty, crusty feel that you'll get if you let it dry naturally. Because at the end of the day, the thing that smells in your gear is basically rotting leather. It's rotting flesh. It's nastiness. So if you can stop that process from happening through drying it out, that's your best bet. It's kind of similar to funny enough, it's kind of similar to like making beef jerky. At the end of the day, what they're doing is they're drying out the meat. So so it's not going to spoil, and it's not going to get gross. And of course, there's other processes and other things that they're doing to it. But nonetheless, it's really about drying it out. And the same thing happens with your gear. There's leather in your gear. There's leather-like material in your gear, and that stuff needs to be dried out so that it ends up not stinking and whatever. So that'd be your best bet, is dry it out first and foremost. And then if it does get too stinky, there's lots of sports stores out there who actually have systems or like big washers and stuff like that. I know that we have a couple retailers around here who actually have that, and it only costs you like $10 or something to stick your gear in there, and it comes out smelling at least better than it did before. So that'd be my other suggestion. So hopefully that helps. All right. Now, I also want to mention too, of course, I'm trying to remember exactly what his YouTube name is, because he asked me to say it, and let me figure out exactly what his name is. Of course, I can't figure it out now. So last time I had mentioned my favorite YouTube channel, and that is SinsFan. So that's SENSFAN, and then there's some numbers afterwards. So I'm trying to find it right now. He has my favorite YouTube channel. Here we go. SinsFan0206. So that's SENSFAN0206. And what he does is, I'm assuming he has probably season tickets or something to like the Ottawa Senators or somebody. I'm assuming it's the Ottawa Senators, considering his username. And he records all of the pre-games, and then he sticks them on YouTube. And it is just the best thing in the world, because you can see how these pro goalies are preparing for a game, and you see just how good they are. So there's some really cool videos. You know, of course, your top goalies like Pekka Rinne and Henrik Lundqvist are there, and they're doing some cool stuff. But it's even cooler to see some of the goalies who you wouldn't normally think are like that great, like Cam Talbot, who I think is going to be awesome this year for Edmonton. And I know there was another goalie who he played for Nashville, but I can't remember what his name is now. But when you see even the backup goalies, the stuff that they're doing in pre-games and messing around with the puck and just having fun, that really shows you that they are true pros. So definitely check out SinsFan's YouTube channel, because it is my favorite one on all of YouTube, and you can learn a ton of stuff from the professionals. So so there you go, SinsFan. I know you wanted me to mention you again, so there you go. And it's well worth it and well deserved. So let's see. How flexible are the Paso goalie pads? This person has Warrior Ritual G1s. He loves them, but the knee landings are slowly going flat. So he wants to get a new set that's close to the Warrior pads. So are they worth it? And he's looking at the Axiom Paso pads. So you saw a while back that I had used Paso goalie pads, and that was a demo set, a test set, so that I could tell them what I liked and disliked. I haven't used their pads since. So I don't really want to give a comment on what those pads were like, because they had several things that were very different than your normal retail model that I was trying out. Now, I know that as far as Paso goalie pads go, you can get them as flexible as you want. Now, one of the coolest parts about Paso, and this is true for any of their gear, they sit down with you and they go through all of the options for those pads. So for example, even if a chest protector or a stick or anything like that, they are more than happy to do a Skype session with you, and they'll go through all of the options on the pads. Now, I've said before, this can be good and bad, because in my opinion, I think a lot of us, we go too crazy with the customization. And at the end of the day, really, goalies should be picking like one of 4 different options. It shouldn't be, hey, you can have like 60 different combinations on this pad. At the end of the day, it's just pretty standard of what you should be doing. Just because Antti Niemi does it, or just because Henrik Lundqvist does it, doesn't mean that you should be doing it, because clearly we're not at their level. But at the same time, if you do want that level of customization, Paso is definitely your choice, because they can customize anything you want. Now, the other thing that I would tell you, though, is that if you do like the Warrior Ritual G1s, which, first of all, I'm surprised to even hear that, but if you do like the Warrior Ritual G1s, you can replace those knee landings. And Sarah from PAW, which is Protective Athletic Wear, she makes custom ones. I believe Keeps 33, but I don't have a good way of contacting him, but I believe he can also make those. I know he's on Facebook. And I know there's another place that's on the West Coast somewhere. I think he goes by like California Goalie Pad something. I can't. I've never used him, but it looks like he does some reasonably good work. All of those people can make you new landing gear. So if that's something that you're interested in, you really like those Warriors and you want to keep them, go that route. If you want something new and you want something highly customizable that's going to be as flexible as you want it, let's Paso. That's for you. So so good luck with that one, Chad. Let's see. What else do we have here? I think that might be it. So let me do one more quick refresh of the YouTube comments, and we might get wrapped up here. So what are we at? We're at 3 hours, so maybe a little bit less than the last time around. So, and fortunately, I started earlier. I think last time I started at what was that, 7? And I think it was like 10:30 when it got over, and I couldn't believe it. And then today I started at 5. We'll wrap up at around 8-ish. All right, so let's see here. I already did that one. Did that one. Okay, so here's a good one. And this is another question I get pretty often, is thoughts on putting products on pads to make them slide easier. So he has a young goalie at home, and he doesn't have the strongest push. I have never put stuff on my gear. I've always been kind of weary about it, and I know that a lot of people. What was it? It's some sort of like auto finish or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's supposed to make it slide really well. And this is just my personal preference, is that I would rather work on the goalie from a developmental standpoint than cheat, if you will, and put something on their pads that makes them slide unnaturally. Because here's the thing, is that too much sliding can be bad. And depending on the age of your child, there's probably not a whole lot of reason for him to be able to slide that well yet. If they're young enough, there's not really, it's not like they're going that fast, and there's, not a lot of advanced plays. So I'm sure he has to slide occasionally. But in my opinion, it's much more developmentally appropriate to work on his leg strength than to, make him slide unnaturally, which, if you get pads that slide almost too well, it takes you a while to get used to it, and you have to have really good footwork. And it almost makes it harder sometimes, because you're going to have to now not just slide, but also slide and stop. And that's a huge difference. So that's something to keep in mind. So personal preference, I don't put stuff on my pads. If my kids played, I wouldn't put stuff on their pads either. I would much rather work on their leg strength. And to be perfectly honest, and let me go off on another quick tangent really quick, since I'm on it and we still have the time. Goalie camps and goalie drills, especially for kids, unfortunately, there are far too many goalie coaches who are clearly unqualified teaching kids. And I'm not saying that every goalie coach had to play in the NHL, but you can tell a lot from Facebook pages and from YouTube videos of how well a goalie instructor reaches through with his or her students, and the things that they're doing, whether it's going to be efficient and effective. So, for example, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but I've seen my fair share of goalie drills on YouTube from goalie instructors I know and other ones that I don't know, but I've heard about, who have relatively good reputations. The point of a goalie camp or a drill in goalie camp is not to get as many shots on as possible. It's not. Just because there's 20 pucks next to the shooter does not mean that no instruction should happen between the first puck and the 20th puck. And I think that was one of the really good things about Bruce Racine. I've taught under 3 or 4 goalie coaches in my life. And one of the things that Bruce Racine always encouraged us to do is stop a drill and help a goalie if it's not working out well. Now, I've seen lots of goalie instructors where, they're just blasting shots over and over again, not letting kids recover, making a kid stand there for 20 shots when clearly their form is suffering. And when form suffers, so does the muscle memory that goalie is trying to develop. So it's just like working out. When you're working out, you don't work out to 20 reps or to 50 reps. What you're doing is you're going for typically 6 to 10 reps, really strong ones, until your form suffers, not until you suffer. The worst thing you can do for your body when working out or trying to get muscle memory is have bad form. So, these goalie instructors who are out there who are clearly unqualified, who have zero knowledge of what they're doing out there, and yet they're running camps out there and they're laughing about it, thinking that, some goalie who's like struggling out there, that it's funny. It's not funny, and you are hurting that goalie and their development. And when I watch a YouTube video of parents laughing at their kids struggling, that's upsetting to me, because clearly you as a parent are failing your child, and you are failing that child by sending them to an instructor who clearly has no idea what he's doing. You guys have probably never seen me mad before, but that's probably as mad as you're going to see. Well, I guess you guys have when I broke my stick over the puck or over the net a few times, or maybe slashed a guy in the face once or twice. But that just drives me absolutely nuts when parents clearly are not doing what's in the best interest of their child. I would much rather send my kid to a drop-in and just have fun playing goalie than to send them to a camp where it's, teaching bad form from a clearly unqualified instructor. So, okay, I'll get off that soapbox now. But if you do have any questions about goalie camps, goalie instructors, even if you have a video of your kid who's playing, I'm more than happy to take a look at that video. I would say like a lot of my comments are like, hey, I have a YouTube channel. Will you take a look at it? I take a look at every single one of those, and I try to make a comment if I can. I can't promise you I'm going to subscribe and I'm going to comment on every one, but I'll comment occasionally and give you some feedback. And I'm not saying I'm not some pro instructor or anything like that either, but nonetheless, I know, and I've been a teacher in my past as well, in an elementary school. So I tend to know how to reach kids. And at the same time, I know that once they struggle with their form, they're no longer learning. So, and that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. Okay, let's keep going. I did see another one that was different. Who is your favorite goalie of today's game? That is a wonderful question. I am a huge fan of Cam Talbot. I think he's pretty awesome. I think he's going to do awesome in Edmonton as long as Edmonton as a team, does pretty well. Edmonton is going to be so fun to watch this year. And I'm not a fan of like teams themselves typically. But Cam Talbot is just a beast. He did awesome for the Rangers last year. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves, and you're going to have McDavid on that team and a ton of other young kids like Hall and some high-flying defensemen. That's just a fun team to watch, even if they end up stinking. That's going to be fun to watch. I'd say some other favorites are Pekka Rinne. He's pretty awesome. And Roberto Luongo, though it's really hard to watch the Florida Panthers. That's like the opposite of the Edmonton Oilers. Like they're both bad, even though, Florida, they almost made the playoffs last year, but they're both bad teams. But it is just arduous to watch the Florida Panthers. That and the jerseys are just so friggin' ugly. And Luongo like has no style whatsoever. Unfortunately, at least not since his old Florida days where he actually had some nice pads. But his pads now stink. I also like to watch the Pittsburgh Penguins because they're fun to watch. But Fleury, I really liked Fleury when he came into the league, but he still doesn't have great economy of motion. So and now he just lets in like the weirdest goals ever. And his pads, since they're not like that really cool sport gold, which were awesome when he came in the league, now they're all like, white with some antique gold on it or whatever other colors he puts on it. It's just annoying to watch now. So. I would much rather he go back to those sport gold pads that he actually got out last year, I think for a couple of games at least, which is fun to watch. But he needs to bring those things out full time because I'm getting sick of these white pads. And that's another soapbox too. I know that there were rumors at the time that the NHL might institute like a rule of 40% of your pads should be colored or something like that. And that would be so awesome if they did that because goalie pads are getting so annoying nowadays to look at. Oh, great. White yet again. Nice job. You're a goalie. The whole reason to become a goalie, or at least the whole reason I became a goalie, number one was you got to wear the cool pads. Number two, to get girls. So that's really about it. So, and number one, if you don't look good, you don't play good, at least according to me. So it's like if you're going to go out there and you're all white set, which granted at some age is appropriate because you're switching teams or whatever, but there are pad wraps and stuff like that now that you can do. But if you're a pro goalie and you get like free equipment and stuff, you should have some nice pads out there, and you should be selling the game and selling the position. And I don't think they're doing that. So another soapbox. I apparently get cranky as the further along these things go, the crankier I get. So, okay. So did you or do you still experiment with different internal and external brakes in your pads? So this guy currently has P3s with the pre-curve, but he feels like he needs some 5-hole coverage. So does he think a single internal and external below the knee would solve that? I actually had kind of the same issue where, and I'm trying to think here of what my original P1s had. My P1s had no brakes externally. They had 2 brakes internally with a pre-curve, and that worked out really well for 5-hole coverage. And then what I like to use now is a single internal and external brake below the knee, and that gives me a ton of 5-hole coverage too. So I think there's a lot of goalies out there who still think like a double internal external brake will work for them. I tend to find that that's actually too flexible, but that's just my preference. So I think it would be a good idea to go with a single internal and external below the knee. That seems to be the newest thing going on, and I go with the straight pad at the top instead of the pre-curve. You can go either way. I feel like pre-curve was more like late 2000s, so like, you know, in your like 2008, 2009, and now you're getting more of the straight brake or the straight curve at the top. So just one thing I would never recommend to anyone is no brakes whatsoever. You know, going the Jaguar route or the Niemi route, that's just ridiculous. And in Crawford, Crawford looks like a JV goalie out there. I don't understand how he's getting paid like $6 million this year. Like, what a horrible decision for Chicago. Carter Hutton, thank you. That was the goalie I was looking for. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, I would definitely recommend going that single internal and external below the knee. But again, thank you, Angelo. I think you've saved me twice now on questions. Carter Hutton, check out Sins Fan, his YouTube channel, and check out Carter Hutton. When he's playing with the puck behind the net, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Like, I could never move like that dude. Which, granted, I mean, I'm 31 and clearly overweight and not an NHL goalie, so whatever. But it's fun to watch those guys. All right. Going to take one more quick look at all these comments to see if there's anything new, and maybe then we'll wrap it up before I get too cranky and start going off on another soapbox, right? You guys are probably getting annoyed at that. So let's see here. Looks good. Hello, Brandon. I see multiple people saying hi, so hello, Brandon. I know somebody else did that too. Hi, Billy. All right, so I think that's really about it. And if you're in any fantasy leagues, definitely pick Lundqvist, because I think he's going to have another great year. I don't know about picking Rene, because he's a great goalie, but Nashville, I'm never confident in Nashville, to be perfectly honest. Looks like we do have one more question really quick. So this guy, Hockey Dude, says, I'm a new goalie and I've only played 2 games. I'm working on the butterfly and having trouble getting up. Every goalie, when they're starting, has trouble getting up. In fact, funny enough, the first time I played ice hockey goalie, and that was after playing goalie for like 1 or 2 years before that. First time I went down the butterfly and I slid back in my own net, and I knew that it wasn't going to go well for me that session, and it was not good for me that session. So how do you work on getting up? And that's a wonderful question. So there's a couple things. First of all, you're just going to have to work at it, to be perfectly honest. Watch some YouTube videos on butterfly recoveries. You're going to want to, too often I see goalies who are trying to get up, basically get up straight. So you go down straight, your pads like this, you go down straight, and then you try to get up straight. That's very difficult to do, especially if you don't know what you're doing yet, and if you don't have that leg strength built up yet. What you want to do is do butterfly recoveries, and you want to do it to a side. So you go down, and then you're going to want to transition, and then get up and go over. Okay? So then you're going to want to go down again, and then get up this way, and then transition over. Because you're going to rotate on one knee while bringing up one leg and then transition over, and that's going to be far easier. Of course, you're going to look like a newborn deer for a little while, and that's perfectly fine. Go to as many stick and pucks and practices and drop-ins and stuff like that. Take a corner at a stick and puck and just work on those the entire time. Work on your leg strength. Work on your muscle memory. It does take time to do it. But it's well worth it, and it is a really fun position to play. So it does tend to be an expensive position to play. And it's one thing to tell parents when they're, they're always timid on, letting their sons or daughters be goalies. And it's like, it is such a fun position to play. It is expensive, but it's so fun. And you're really the most important person out there. And you get to stand out there the whole game. Everyone looks at you when you make those bad save or those great saves. Yeah, you get some blame when the goal goes in, but as long as you're making a ton of saves and you're helping your team win, that's what it's about. So, so hopefully that helps out. So, all right. Well, I think that's the last question I had today. So I was really encouraged by all the viewers that I've had today. It's pretty awesome. Looks like we've stayed definitely above 10 the entire time, and we've gotten up pretty high a couple times. So that's been really exciting. Hopefully you guys, had fun looking at all the gear, and of course we're coming up on 3.5 hours again, so I can't believe you guys stuck around that long, but that's really awesome. And if any of you guys ever need anything, let me know. Definitely comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment on the videos. I respond to every single comment people make, as long as you have responding to comments on. So there are some people out there who they make comments, but they don't have they're not enabled to for me to respond to their comments, and I don't exactly know how that all works, but otherwise I respond to every single comment. So definitely comment. Let me know if you have a YouTube channel. I'd love to look at them. And if you ever need any help, definitely come to goaliecrease.net. Register as a user. We have wonderful goalies of all ages. We have a whole section for goalie parents. There's a bunch of instructors who are there, and it's just a good time. So it's a really good welcoming attitude. Everyone wants to help everyone, and there's some just really great guys and women who are on there as well. So and wonderful parents. So it's really encouraging. So one thing I did want to mention one more time is that I am giving away this No Bull creatine powder. Okay, so what you have to do though, go on goaliecrease.net. And you either have to message me, which again, my name on there is Synesthete, Synesthete, or find the thread that's about this goalie hangout and comment on there. And anyone who comments or sends me a message will be put inside a hat. And then next Sunday, I'll take a name out of the hat, and we'll arrange to have it shipped to you in the next couple weeks. So, so I hope you guys all had fun. Again, if you need anything, let me know. And otherwise, well, good luck, and I'll see you out on the ice. Have a wonderful night.